Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nathaniel Zebley,
I'm Jack Coleman.
and you are listening to the very first episode of the Fourth and Nine Draw podcast. On here, we will be talking about various aspects of the NFL, such as game picks, game recaps, NFL news, player insight. We will be doing midseason and end of the season awards. We will also be doing fantasy, such as people you should be starting and who not to start. And we will also be bringing fun and unique segments that hopefully everybody can enjoy. So, without further ado, we want to thank you all for listening, the few of you that will be. And we're going to get right into the news here.
Okay. Well, the first thing in the news is something that broke today. The Buccaneers released Vern Hargraves, a former first-round pick, after being uninspiring and being benched for the last game. And the only remarkable thing he's done since exiting college is be a Madden legend. He was fantastic on Madden. Really great. He did nothing else. He's been extremely mediocre for the Bucs. That being said, on a team that's weaker at corner could probably find some value in him, like the Eagles. I could easily see the Eagles picking him up and sliding him right in over Sidney Jones because he's far worse. But so yeah, that's happening. Next is
the news is broken by Adam Schefter, by the way, just so we can at least give credit where credit's due. We are not NFL insiders, so this was broken by Adam Schefter.
I was talking to Vernon's agent.
Anyway,
that's boys. So next is, this broke yesterday, Emmanuel Ogbah is now out for the season. He was the sack leader for the Chiefs this year, former Brown, and it's a pretty big blow for them on a defense that is less than inspired. Clark, their big offseason acquisition this year, has been really, really, really disappointing, really bad. I'm fairly certain he currently only has one sack right now on the entire season. He has a $100 million contract. Currently, he's being paid the most on the team, and it is not looking good. That was a really bad acquisition by them. And it's also kind of hurt the Seahawks as well. But, so that's a pretty big blow to them. The next piece of news, we're getting into the bigger stuff now. Those are just some small things. Next is Cam reportedly getting traded this offseason. That's huge.
That's huge considering Cam Newton has been, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL for quite some time now. Honestly, Kyle Allen has shown really great sparks this season. He's been pretty decent. I just don't know if I can honestly see Kyle Allen as a starter for years to come with the Panthers. That being said, I think he's going to be the starter next year for sure.
Probably.
But Cam at the beginning of the season, he was not playing well.
Well, he was throwing. He wasn't running at all, and throwing, he was probably the worst quarterback in the entire league.
Well, he was at the end of the season last year, I believe. Didn't he get hurt?
Oh yeah, he was not playing. He didn't play the last week of last season. I'm not sure about the rest. He definitely didn't play the last week. Kyle Allen started and was really good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the last couple weeks. Because Heineke played the week before, so it was a couple weeks. Cam was out, but yeah, Kyle Allen actually looked pretty good last year too. So he'll probably be a starter next year unless Will Grier can show something. Their third-round pick.
Well, I cannot talk today. Will Grier, from what I can remember, I don't have any stats right here, but he was not that good in preseason, if I'm not mistaken.
He was atrocious in preseason. Yeah. Near the end, he put together a decent game, but his first 3 games that he was playing were really, really bad. I saw a lot of Panthers fans really turning on him. He lost the backup job to Kyle Allen, which isn't a huge surprise because Kyle Allen looked really good last year. Mm-hmm. But he did not look great. Out of curiosity, where do you think Cam will get traded to? Where do you think the most likely place is for him?
So one that I agree might happen. So it was reported a few hours ago, per this recording by Rap Sheet, that Cam would consider going to the Bears if it all worked out, apparently. Being a Packers fan, I don't want to see that because the Bears, depending on if Cam played like he has in previous seasons, would be absolutely disgusting. Because the Bears, I mean, let's face it, Mitchell Trubisky is not that good. In fact, last year, before this podcast was even thought about, we were one of the two saying, and I'm not saying other people weren't saying that, but, we had always been saying, the Bears aren't going to go anywhere or do anything in the playoffs as long as Mitchell Trubisky is their quarterback. And that is pretty evident this season. I know the Bears just came off a win, but overall the season has been very disappointing for them considering they went 12-4 last season. And now having Mitchell Trubisky playing like crap. So I could most definitely see Cam Newton going to the Bears. Well, I had another team in mind, but I think the Bears would be most likely.
Cam can do something that Mitchell Trubisky can't do. When it comes, I would say run, but Mitchell Trubisky can run pretty well as well. And Cam has not been running, or he didn't run this season at all because he's been getting injured. But he can do something that Mitchell Trubisky really can't do at all, and that is throw to the left. So that's a big plus for the Bears offense.
Yeah. Another team, honestly, that I could see him going to is the Titans. Marcus Mariota is not good. I don't think anyone really saw Marcus Mariota as a great QB. He's just been incredibly average and at some points below average for the Titans. Well, and then they're clearly not going to stick with either of them, either Marcus Mariota or Ryan Tannehill. So
you say that? I see a lot of speculation that Ryan Tannehill is going to get a bit of an extension here because he's been playing a lot better than Marcus Mariota. Still not one of the better quarterbacks in the league, I'd say, but better than Mariota. But it's probably unlikely he gets extended. But I wouldn't be amazed. I could see them maybe franchising him or giving him a little 1-year prove it for next year. We'll have to see.
Right. Well, for all intents and purposes, for a quarterback, Cam is still young. He is 30 years old. Turns 31 in May. So one of the best parts about Cam is his running ability. So the fact that he wouldn't be able to possibly run like he has in previous years, that totally eliminates easily the best part about his skill or his skill set. Yeah. He does have a good arm, I will say that, but
well, it's been injured too, so
yeah, exactly. So, I definitely don't see. Yeah, exactly. I don't see Cam staying for the Panthers. I think they are most definitely. I mean, it already came out that they're moving on. So, I want to say either the Bears or the Titans. I don't know if you have any other teams in mind, but I mean, those are definitely two teams I could see getting Cam.
A team I think probably should go for it, but I don't think would be the Bengals. The Bengals usually like to draft, but they could definitely use a quarterback because currently Ryan Finley is just Andy Dalton, but with more mistakes.
Right.
He's definitely not the future. They're definitely going to take someone. At the same time, they're probably going to draft someone first overall because that's probably the pick they're going to have. But, I mean, trading for Cam, you still have him under contract for 1 or 2 years. So you could at least start him and have whoever you draft sit behind him, especially when it's Joe Burrow, who's, I'm fairly certain this is his first year starting in college. So he could definitely use more time. But anyway, who knows? We'll see. Anyway, next in the news, Colin Kaepernick is getting tryouts. Or a tryout.
I don't necessarily. Okay, so to clarify that, I don't think. Okay, so from my understanding, no teams as of right now are working out or are having Colin Kaepernick work out. He is hosting a private workout, and he is inviting all teams to view it. There will be an interview. All clubs can come and attend. Actually, here I have the tweet right here from Adam Schefter. NFL clubs were informed today that a private workout will be held for Colin Kaepernick on Saturday in Atlanta. Session will include on-field work and an interview. All clubs are invited to attend, and video of both the workout and interview will be made available to clubs. So, Whether or not teams are actually going to take the bait and go to see Colin Kaepernick work out is still to be decided. This is a really touchy subject, right? Because talking about Kaepernick seems to not only be about the NFL, but then you get into the whole talk about race and inequality, stuff like that. And that's not something we're ever going to really talk about on here. So for the sake of it, we're going to be talking about Colin Kaepernick as a player, not necessarily the social aspect of, why he had a leave of absence from the NFL, stuff like that. Basically, I don't think Colin Kaepernick is a great quarterback. That being said, I do think he deserves another chance for another team. The problem is, we talked about this before. Colin Kaepernick is the type of quarterback in which you need to design an offense around him, and nobody's going to want to do that for a backup quarterback because, let's face it, I don't think Colin Kaepernick is going to get a job as a starter.
Yeah, that being said, if I am the Bears, I'm considering it. I've done some thinking about this.
Okay.
Because you have Mitch Trubisky, who plays just like Colin Kaepernick. They're the easiest comparison I have for Colin Kaepernick is Mitch Trubisky, but Colin Kaepernick might actually be a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Mitch Trubisky, and then your backup is Chase Daniels. So you know what you're getting with Chase Daniels, who I'd argue is about the same as Mitch Trubisky. So you really need to spark this team that has a fantastic defense so you don't waste the year away. Maybe signing Cap and playing him as soon as you can save the year if you can have just some sort of synergy with the rest of the offense to get it going. Something.
Well, just for reference, I will bring it up. His stats from the very last season that he played in 2016. He played in 12 games. His record was 1-10. Completion percentage was 59.2%. He threw for 2,241 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions.
That's not a Baker stat line. He quadrupled his interceptions.
So his last season, not very productive. So I could see him a little. Actually, I didn't even think of the Bears. That would be great for him because I don't know if they would necessarily make him the starter, but
probably not at first. But he'd be a good
not at first, but he would probably be a good backup to Mitchell Trubisky, especially because you said Mitchell Trubisky does play like Colin did. Again, I do think Colin Kaepernick does deserve another chance.
I also think he's
NFL.
better than Trubisky. I should clarify that.
There's a lot of quarterbacks right now that are better than Mitchell Trubisky.
I'd say a lot of the backups in the league right now are better than Mitch Trubisky, but anyway.
Yeah, especially the team that Mitchell Trubisky has too surrounding him. His receiving core isn't great, but
weapons could be better.
It's good.
Sure.
Yeah. Tariq Cohen and David Montgomery. Tariq Cohen has shown flashes to be a great running back, and David Montgomery is in his rookie season. So,
One's worst season, but yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, the Bears defense, easily a top defense in the league. So, last year, if the Bills, if the Bears just had any other quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky, I feel like they could have done a lot more in the playoffs, especially against the Eagles.
If they had a better quarterback, they are Super Bowl contenders.
Exactly. Yeah.
But,
I do think, Mitchell Trubisky's not good, right? And it's talked about all the time, like on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. People who are into football, they talk about the Bears trading up for Mitchell Trubisky when they could have gone for, Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. And just imagine that.
That was an L. I remember that when that happened. That was an L back then. In fairness, that's not a hindsight thing. That was an instant L.
Yeah. Because you look at Patrick Mahomes, and easily he is the most gifted quarterback in the NFL right now, and he's still young.
Right next to Kaiser.
Yeah, right next to Deshaun Kaiser, former Packers and Browns quarterback, current
Legend.
backup Raiders quarterback.
Just third string, not
Yeah,
activated right
third
now.
string.
It's fine.
Yeah,
It's cool.
that's cool. They'll understand one day. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you look at Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. You know, Patrick Mahomes is easily better than Deshaun Watson. But that being said, Deshaun Watson is still a top quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the best.
Patrick Mahomes, uh, just watching his games, it's like the stuff that he does is quite frankly amazing. And I compare him to Aaron Rodgers simply because Aaron Rodgers had the same amount of hype around him when he first started for the Packers, and ended up leading them to a Super Bowl. And the problem is Aaron Rodgers could have gone on to win more Super Bowls if it just wasn't for a crappy defense on the other side of the ball. And that's kind of the same thing that's going on with Patrick Mahomes right now. He is a absolute great quarterback. If he keeps playing like this, he can easily be one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever step foot on the field. But he is right now having to deal with a really crappy offense.
Yeah. Well,
Or defense, my bad.
get ready for people to start talking about. Now this is gonna sound crazy because he's been playing fantastic this year, but people are gonna talk about regression and shit like that in the offseason just because he missed some games with an injury and is currently injured. People are gonna have a lot of really bad hot takes this offseason, so get ready for that. But anyway,
Oh,
we're
for
getting
sure, for sure.
really off topic.
Right.
We have one
Right.
more piece of news, and it's really big. It's really big.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna let you take this one, Nick, because I think you know what it is.
Oh. I kind of matched with a goth queen on Tinder. So
Okay.
that was really nice. Yeah, she still hasn't responded to me, but it's all good. It's all good
Hit her
because
with the
I
super
did.
like I saw.
Yeah.
Solid.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. So that's
All right,
exciting news.
it is.
Uh,
It's great news coming out of the NFL. You gotta love it. Gotta
coming
love it.
out of the National Nate League. Anyway, we'll get more updates on that. The National Florida League. That's what it is. We'll get more updates on that when the story progresses. Probably when she responds. We'll make
Or
sure to
doesn't respond. Maybe she'll unmatch with me. I don't know.
Now that's an update to the story, nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, next, we're gonna move into game recap.
All right.
Okay.
So, we're gonna start off with the Thursday night game. The Chargers falling to the Oakland Raiders, 26-24. The Los Angeles Chargers are now 4-6 on the season. The Oakland Raiders, 5-4. Not the best start for Phillip Rivers in this game. If you watched it,
Well, not the best game.
yeah, it wasn't really a good game for him. He threw for 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
Should have been more. But
Yeah,
he
should
got
have been
some
more.
lucky
Should have been
combination.
more. Eric Harris coming up with 2 of those interceptions.
He should have come up
Um,
with at least 3 as well. One
yeah,
got taken
yeah.
back to be a penalty, but he had
Yeah.
an unreal game.
Yeah, very
Coming from
very good
the,
game.
I think
Yeah,
CFL.
I'm sorry.
I think Eric Harris came from the CFL, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I believe so.
That's a neat story.
For the Chargers, there was production on their side or on the offensive side of the ball. We had Melvin Gordon with 22 carries for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 1 reception for 25 yards.
I have to say, he's been getting better every single game.
Yeah,
keep an eye on it. He started off really slow because, he skipped training camp. But now that he's getting into his flow, he is going back to being a top running back. This game was his best of the season. He's looking better every week.
Right.
That's nice.
Austin Eckler for sure has taken a back seat. He not producing what he was at the beginning of the season. So I guess for fantasy people out there, that's a shame. But
that's unfortunate for
yeah. Keenan Allen, excuse me. He had a decent game, 8 receptions for 68 yards, and he also had a rushing attempt for 18 yards. And fullback season, Derek Watt, he had 1 rushing yard, so that's fine.
Oh yeah. Derek Watt actually should have gotten a receiving touchdown, but trying to remember. I think it was overthrown. But
Yeah.
that would have been wonderful. It was his birthday. That would have been fantastic.
Man. Oh, I forgot to. I also forgot to say Austin Eckler's. The rest of Austin Eckler's stat line. He did have 2 receptions for 29 yards and a receiving touchdown. So Austin Eckler had been at the beginning of the season a really good offensive weapon for the Chargers. So it would have been hard when Melvin Gordon came back. It would have been hard to just leave Austin Eckler in the backseat. So, he has taken a backseat role as of now, but they are still finding ways to produce with him, which is something that is going to be beneficial as the season progresses. Now, the Chargers are.
They have the worst O-line in the league right now. Actually,
yes,
should be mentioned.
Yeah. That is.
Oh.
Come on, dude.
Can't say that.
Oh,
Can't say that.
That will be getting censored.
We're getting that's getting edited out.
That's getting edited.
Yeah, well, they're playing really bad. Their O-line could be the worst in the league, and it's really bad. That being said, that let Farrell and Max Crosby go to town on them. Cleveland Farrell was the 4th overall pick in the draft and has been largely disappointing this season, considering players like Brian Burns and Josh Allen were taken above him or after him. But he did get 2.5 sacks here today. I'd actually argue he wasn't the more impressive person on the O-line, though. The D-line. His rookie, the other rookie on their D-line, Max Crosby, doubled him in pressures. I thought he was a lot more impressive. And I still wouldn't label Cleveland Farrell as a complete draft hit either, based on him absolutely brutalizing the worst O-line in the league. I'll have to see that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, he had 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles, 3 assisted tackles.
Yeah, like I said, he was good, but I have to see more before I label him as worth the pick. Mm-hmm. I also have to mention that the 2-minute drive to end the game by Phillip Rivers, one of the worst I've seen. They had timeouts, a bunch of time, and Phillip Rivers just kept throwing deep balls, and it wasn't working, and it was dreadful. I saw a lot of people on Twitter were very angry about that, Chargers fans. All 7 of them were pissed. So,
yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch the ending of that game. I think I was doing homework. But I do want to talk about Hunter Henry. He has been, since he's come back from injury, the man seems to be always injured. Hunter Henry has come back to have a pretty decent season as all things stand. Last game, let me get the stats real quick.
I think he had 30 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he had 4 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Against Green Bay, the game before this, he had 7 receptions for 84 yards. And then I believe it was his first game back against the Steelers.
I think he had 100.
Yeah, he had I think just 100. Yeah, he had 8 receptions for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, so he has been very productive since he returned.
He's brought a spark offense that they needed.
Yeah, for sure. If the guy can just stay healthy, he can easily be a top tight end in the league because he's still young. I think he's only 24. He definitely has great hands. But sadly, I think that's
if Jake Butt was good. Sorry, Jake Butt.
Jay Booty.
Jay Booty is getting flamed in the pod. Oh man. Oh man. I mean, who knows about Jake Butt? He might be good, but he's always injured.
Oh, come on, man.
Anyway,
let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, we should move on.
Game.
All right, let's do it.
Is the next one for you, Giants and Jets?
Yeah, Giants Jets is next.
All right. So, The New York Giants fall to the New York Jets. The Battle of New York, 34-27. New York Giants move on to be 2-8. The New York Jets now 2-7. They get their second win of the season. Saquon Barkley, absolutely disappointing. 13 carries and only 1 yard to show for it. Now, he kind of improved his stat line a little bit in terms of receiving, 5 receptions for 30 yards, but overall, just an absolutely terrible game for Saquon.
It's only 6 yards of reception, but yeah, this is probably his worst game as a pro. I mean, it has to be.
Oh, for sure. I gotta be honest, I haven't seen a starting running back in so long have this many carries for only 1 yard. I mean, that's crazy.
You do have to contribute a lot of that to the O-line, play calling, things like that. But yeah, this is pretty bad. He's also coming off an injury, so I'm not panicked about it or anything like that.
Right.
I'd actually say
it was definitely a pretty bad game against the Jets of all teams.
True, they were playing the Jets. Probably should have done a bit better than that. But
right. Daniel Jones, however, very solid. 308 yards, 4 touchdowns. He completed 26 of 40 passes. Daniel Jones, I gotta say, is very inconsistent.
But I would say he's about rookies usually are. It's nothing to worry about.
Right, but that being said, I think he is definitely an improvement right now over Eli Manning.
Sure.
Sadly, I do like Eli Manning, but
he also outplayed your boy Sam Darnold.
Oh yeah. Oh. Well, it's not that hard to outplay Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, even in a win, he only threw 1 touchdown, 230 yards, 1 touchdown.
I think he ran for 1 too. Come on.
Oh, look at that! He did run for 1. I said, yeah, I didn't get down to his rushing stats.
God.
Yeah, 3 rushes, 25 yards, 1 touchdown. So, all right. Yeah. So he is the GOAT. My bad.
Speaking of inconsistent, Darius Slayton, a 5th-round wide receiver rookie for the Giants, had 10 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. He drops a decent amount of passes, but I think in the 5th round, that's a steal. He's pretty productive.
Mm-hmm. Golden Tate has been great for the Giants, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's been great. A lot of people just kind of forgot about him. I mean, he was a signing in free agency, and he got a pretty bad reaction because it just kind of felt like he was replacing Odell, and Giants fans were not happy about that because, it's Odell. And then he got suspended for 4 games. But he's come in and been really good, really productive, and really helping this rookie quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have to say, on the Jets side, this was – I don't know if I would call this an impressive win. I guess they scored 34 points, but it's also on the Giants. But Jamal Adams was freaking fantastic. This is one of his best games.
Yeah.
He came out with 2 sacks,
8 tackles.
The end zone for a touchdown. He had some really, really nice stops this game too, which, I guess they are a stat, but it's not really a talked about one. But he's great. I love Jamal Adams, and he's just fantastic.
It's for sure, I think, the best player on the Jets. I think people would argue Le'Veon Bell, but I disagree. I think it is easily Jamal Adams.
I would disagree, too. Le'Veon Bell, like I said, I know me and you disagree on that. I think he's been pretty disappointing this year. I know he runs really hard, like I said, and he's good at receiving. He's a great receiver.
It's just a shame. There's just not much he can do behind that offensive line. Even Sam Darnold, to an extent, Sam Darnold behind that offensive line has been – I mean, you've seen the results. They have –
yeah.
Where Sam Darnold has – I'm surprised he hasn't died. I'm surprised Mono was the biggest thing to an injury he had, or the closest thing to an injury. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell, he had 18 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. He had an average of 1.9 yards a carry. He also had 4 receptions for 34 yards, an average of 8.5 yards.
Yeah, like I said, I actually, if I'm the Giants, I know the Giants owner after this game, he was pissed, but if I'm the Giants, I'm not that upset, or I guess if I'm a Giants fan, I'm not that upset about losing. This season's going nowhere. As long as I see my players playing decently well, my young players, should I say, and we just keep losing, hey, I mean, a high draft pick does not sound too bad to me, because they have a lot of holes. But anyway, next I think we should get to Falcons and Saints, which was the surprise of the weekend.
Oh, for sure. The Falcons absolutely decimating the New Orleans Saints, 26-9. Falcons move on to 2-7. New Orleans Saints fall to 7-2. Um, not not Drew Brees' most productive game. He just threw for 287 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
45 attempts, no less.
Yeah, 32 completions, 45 attempts. Yeah, they just couldn't seem to get anything on offense. I mean, their best player. I mean, the only person who scored for them was Will Lutz. So with three field goals. So I guess in fantasy, people were hype. But yeah, Matt Ryan, less impressive stat line, but at least he did throw 2 touchdowns. He had 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Rough game for Devonta Freeman where he gets injured and is out for, I think, half the game. So
Yeah.
He's been super disappointing this year. Coming in, he just kept, his average was really low, was not running hard, wasn't making people miss. Dan Quinn just kept saying that, he just has to, he'll get used to it, he'll get better as the season goes, but that has not been the case. He's actually been not a bad receiving back, ironically. He's been in the receiving game a lot, but he has not been a very good runner. The offensive line has been trying to give him chances, although they have not been the greatest either.
In terms of receivers, the Falcons have been pretty productive. Julio Jones, of course. I mean, it's Julio Jones. He's, one of, if not the best receivers in the league. Austin Hooper has been very productive for them.
Good fantasy option.
Yeah, very good fantasy option. He has found the end zone on multiple occasions, including this game. He had 4 receptions for 17 yards and 1 touchdown. Very solid, very good tight end. He has helped out Matt Ryan tremendously. I want to look at his season stats, actually. Let me bring them up.
Yeah, he was up. I will say, I've been hearing hype about him for the past couple seasons. It's been kind of always like, oh, get ready, Austin Hooper's about to break out, and it's never really happened. But this year feels like a real breakout year for him in a pretty much lost season.
Yeah.
He's one of the few bright spots.
In the past, including this game, the past 4 games, he has had a touchdown in each of those games. Starting from facing Arizona, in which he had 8 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. On the year so far, he has 6 touchdowns. So this has been a very productive year for Austin Hooper. It helps that he has Matt Ryan throwing to him. Matt Ryan is, in my opinion, one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I'd say he's at least top 10. I'd say top 5.
Mm-hmm.
He's really great.
Yeah.
Last, I think we should touch on really good game from Michael Thomas, 152 yards.
Yeah, Michael Thomas is a great receiver. Yeah, 13 receptions, 152 yards. Very
might be the best in the league this year. But anyway, on to the next game. Chiefs-Titans.
Chiefs and Titans. Wow.
Game.
Yeah, crazy game up until the final moments. The Tennessee Titans. I don't know what the betting odds were, but I assume the Chiefs were the favorites. The Tennessee Titans beat the Chiefs 35-32. The Chiefs now falling to 6-4 on the season.
Tennessee that first round bye is not looking good.
Nah, not at all. But Patrick Mahomes absolutely popped off. 36 completions of 50 attempts, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I said it earlier in the podcast. Patrick Mahomes is definitely something special. He is something we haven't seen in a very long time in the NFL. He is definitely the most talented quarterback in the NFL right now. I think an argument could be made for Lamar Jackson, but in terms of just pure skill, in terms of passing the ball, Patrick Mahomes has got to be the top.
Yeah. Also, an insane game for Tyreek Hill. Really good game. Over 150 yards and a touchdown, 11 catches. On the Titans side, though, let's get to the winners here. The Titans they were crazy. Ryan Tannehill didn't even throw the ball 20 times, 13 of 19 for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he was really efficient. Whenever they tried to throw the ball, it worked pretty much. Yep. And Derrick Henry, the reason they didn't throw the ball much, because Derrick Henry had over 20 carries, 188 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was fantastic. Derrick Henry is one of my favorite running backs to watch when he's in the second half. It's weird, but in the first half,
Derrick Henry can have a really bad game and then the next week come back and rush for over 150 yards. He's just such a weird running back to have on your team. But he's productive nonetheless. I mean, I guess you can't really argue with the results that he produces in most cases. I want to say he's inconsistent,
I would.
but
I'd say he's inconsistent.
yeah,
He's a guy. It's good to have another running back who's like another top running back with him in the backfield to balance him out when he's not doing great. Unfortunately, they're rocking Dion Lewis, who's been a massive disappointment this year, which is a shame because.
yeah, I always so like in Madden, I always sign Derrick Henry if I can.
Oh,
Always.
okay.
Yeah.
That's good analysis, actually.
Yeah. No, it's perfect analysis. I
Yeah. Anyway, Derrick Henry was really the driving force here, and good special teams for the Titans' victory. So
Right.
good stuff. They might be able to sneak into the playoffs in the wild card. We'll see if they can continue this.
Yeah, I mean, I think for all intents and purposes, starting Ryan Tannehill over Marcus Mariota has seemed to just spark something within the team.
Because Ryan Tannehill actually knows how to throw more than one touchdown a game.
Exactly.
And he can move the ball and not take a million sacks. But anyway,
Damn.
next we have Ravens Bengals.
Ooh, so
It's a banger.
yeah, not really much to talk about here. I guess this is kind of the result you expected. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely demolished the Bengals, 49-13. Baltimore Ravens moving on to 7-2. Cincinnati Bengals still winless at 0-9. Lamar Jackson had a really good stat line.
One of the best football quarterback games I've seen, like live. Fantastic.
Lamar Jackson, 15 completions on 17 attempts, 223 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 7 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown.
And that doesn't tell the full story. He had a bananas run, which I'm sure everyone listening has seen. I mean, it was crazy.
It's been it's crazy.
Insane run. He is so good. People compare him to Michael Vick, but I mean, this guy passes better than Michael Vick for sure. Michael Vick had a really great arm, but he was not as accurate as Lamar Jackson's been this season.
Yeah,
he's insane.
Lamar Jackson, it's weird. He is one of the most athletic and all-around versatile quarterbacks in the entire league, if not like the most versatile quarterback in the league. If he can just get a little bit more development in this offseason, and if he stays healthy, and I say that because, scrambling quarterbacks like him, they need their legs to stay healthy. If he does manage to stay healthy, and if he develops his passing game even more over this offseason, there's no telling how, what the ceiling for this guy is. And, the Ravens could be a Super Bowl contending team. I mean, they are now, and if they just get maybe like one more weapon in their receiving core, man, there's no telling what this team could do. I mean,
also, fun stat line: the Titans, or what the hell, the tight ends. Why did I say the Titans? I don't like talking about the Titans. The tight ends had on the game. Now, some of this is from RG3 because he played in garbage time, but tight ends had 12 catches this game, whereas wide receivers only had 6. Lamar Jackson loves his tight ends, and they're really productive for him. Hayden Hurst, not as much, first-round bust looking like, but Mark Andrews is fantastic, and good old Nick Boyle. He's from Delaware, so that's a dub.
Hell yeah.
Gotta love it.
4 receptions, 78 yards.
Yeah, not bad.
Yep.
Not much to talk about on the Bengals side. Besides Ryan Finley's first game, he looked like, I think I said this earlier in the pod, he looks like Andy Dalton. He's okay.
Yeah. Just over 50% completion, too.
He threw a pick 6, I'm fairly certain.
Joe Mixon had 30 carries.
Yeah, he actually, not bad considering.
114 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 37 yards, so he had a good game.
Also,
decent game.
This Marcus Peters trade is looking like a fantastic one. He's been playing really good since being traded to the Ravens. Yeah, not much else to talk about. I mean, the Bengals trying to get that first overall pick. See if
Well,
the makes it.
you know, the Bengals going into this season, they weren't trying to tank, and now look at them. So
Okay, they probably knew they were going to be bad, but I think they were gunning for like 3 or 4 wins. I see them.
they weren't gunning for no wins, that's for sure.
Yeah, they might be lucky. They'll be lucky to get one this year. It's really bad. I hope they go 0-16 so they can match their division rival Browns for having an 0-16 season. That'd be nice. But anyway, next, speaking of the devil, the Bills-Browns game. I'm a Browns fan, so this was a heart attack of a game for me. This is a tough watch because, like I've said this a couple times before, but if the Browns lose one more game, at that point, pretty much done on those playoff hopes. I don't think they're going to make it. But if they can just win out here, which is a tall task, even though the schedule's pretty easy from here on out. It's really easy until you get to the Ravens. But anyway, they won 19-16 over the Buffalo Bills. They improved to 3-6, where the Bills fall to 6-3. And I have to say, I'm watching this, and Josh Allen, I'm so confused about. He does so many things I love, and then I watch him he's so inaccurate sometimes. He ran for 2 touchdowns. He was killing the Browns in the red zone because they would just spread the offense out, and he would just waltz through the middle for a touchdown. There's nothing they could do about it. But sometimes on third down in the middle of the field, he's just really bad. He missed Brown, Cole Beasley a bunch of times on third down conversions tries. It was really, really, really bad. So I don't know how to feel about him. I think they definitely should give him another season or 2. But if he keeps playing like this and not improving, I don't think he's the quarterback of the future for them. But we'll see. He's really hard to, I guess, evaluate. But anyway, on to the Browns. This was Baker's easily best game of the season. It's not close. He didn't turn the ball over, which was, a minor miracle. And he threw for more than 1 touchdown, which is also a minor
miracle.
Yeah. I'm a Browns fan, by the way. If I didn't make that.
Jack did watch this game. I didn't. This was a 4:00 game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, this is a 1:00.
Oh, it was a 1:00. I think I was watching. Oh yeah, I was watching the Falcons and the Saints. At 1:00, I didn't get the opportunity to watch this.
Game.
So that's why Jack is probably going to be talking about this.
This is a pretty good game. It was a really, really sloppy game, but it was pretty good. It was close. A lot of sloppy football.
So we're on the topic of the Browns. All right. There's some things we need to talk about, right? I feel
like what?
Like what? Okay. Well, first off, I want to say Nick Chubb is an absolute stud. He is one of the best running backs in the league right now. I don't care what anybody says. The fact that he is able to be so productive behind that garbage offensive line is amazing.
JC Trevor's pissed right now.
Sorry, dog. But I'm kidding. But Nick Chubb's still one of the best running backs in the league. The Browns have an absolute stud in him. I can't wait to see what he does in future seasons. But I do want to move on to Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry.
Okay, Jarvis had a great game today.
That's today. Nice one.
It's great.
Oh, I thought you said today. Whatever.
I did say today. But anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, OBJ and Baker. We've talked about this, off podcast, when we're just talking about football. There's just not a connection between Baker and OBJ right now, and I feel like that's pretty evident. OBJ, I don't know what
the season.
Sorry.
It's odd that he doesn't have a connection with him yet. This many weeks in the season through training camp.
Yeah, exactly. There seems to be a great connection between Baker and Jarvis, which is why I wanted to talk about Jarvis and OBJ, mainly OBJ. But OBJ, I don't know what his actual career stats are in terms of drops, but OBJ has had.
This is the worst season for drops.
Are you sure? Yeah, because I don't.
Pace for that at least. He's definitely on pace for that.
Yeah, he has had. Yeah, so okay, then he's been dropping a lot.
So good.
Sometimes he's just not even targeted that much. Sometimes when he is targeted, it's overthrown. He finished this game with 5 receptions for 57 yards. In terms of red zone or end zone production, He is not.
They've thrown to him less than 5 times in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Although they threw to him a couple times this game, so I don't know. That was before this game when I read that stat. He got thrown to a couple times. I will say he probably would have come down with a touchdown this game, but he was interfered with by Tre'Davious White.
Okay.
I think Poyer.
Yeah. But that being said, this is definitely a very weird season for OBJ. He's just not getting touchdowns.
And he's mainly targeted on screens and checkdowns.
Right. You can't be. I'm not a coach in the NFL. I'm not an insider, whatever. I just like talking about football. Yeah. But look, OBJ is easily one of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, there's a reason that the Browns traded for him. And the majority of the time when I see OBJ getting these passes, they're mainly, as you said, screens, checkdowns. That's not how you use OBJ, I feel like. He is most definitely a receiver that you throw too deep. Now, that's not to say, you don't use him on short passes. I mean, that'd be silly if you didn't, just because he has great hands. But, OBJ, you see all of these spectacular catches that he has made throughout his career. It's just so weird that we're not seeing Baker Mayfield, who I've always viewed as a quarterback who does like to chuck it every now and then. It's weird that there's just no connection right now between him and OBJ.
I will say this game he did. I mean, the first play of the game he tried to go deep, but he overthrew OBJ sadly. But he had this game. I will say this whole season it just feels like he's been scared ever since the Titans absolutely manhandled him in the first game of the season. It feels like he's been scared to play how he did last season. But this game, this felt like a real Baker Mayfield game from his rookie year. He was slinging it all over the place. And Rashad Higgins, who he hasn't been active for most of the season. He hasn't been getting play time. He was injured for a while, but he hasn't been being put in. They've been playing Antonio Callaway over him for some ungodly reason. They finally let him play, and he gets the game-winning touchdown. I mean,
it was his only reception of the day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Baker's favorite receiver to throw to. Quite frankly, they have a great connection. Last year was insane, and I hopefully they keep giving him playing time because it just boggles my mind how Freddie's been not doing that. I also have to say Kareem Hunt taking over Dontrell Hilliard's role has been a godsend. Luckily, Dontrell, we're probably not going to talk about Dontrell Hilliard that much anymore, so I'm going to say it now. But Dontrell Hilliard, as I guess the third down back, has been atrocious. He is not a good receiving back. He has no power. He's not very fast. He does not run as hard as Nick Chubb. I don't understand why he was getting all the third down carries. But anyway, he's been completely taken over by Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt played fairly well. When he was running the ball, he was effective. Catching, also effective. He's been pretty great. He was pretty great that game. Hopefully, he continues to build on that, and maybe he can afford himself an even bigger role in the offense. And lastly, I want to talk about Denzel Ward having a fantastic game. Denzel Ward was playing like he wasn't great in the first week of the season, and I was getting a bit worried about him. Then he got injured, but ever since he came back from injury, he's been playing lights out. So hopefully he continues that pace. Anyway, next, pretty fun game, Cardinals-Bucks. I know there's some ref drama in this, but the Buccaneers defeated the Cardinals, going up to 6-3, whereas the Cardinals fall to 3. 3-6. I'm sorry, and the Cardinals are now 3-6-1.
Yeah. So, Kyler Murray has been very productive for the Cardinals. Definitely an improvement over Josh Rosen from last season, which is a shame because we'll get into it later. But I still think it's a shame because I do think Josh Rosen is a good quarterback.
We're a pro Josh Rosen podcast here.
Yeah. No slander on the GOAT.
No Rosen slander on the GOAT.
No Rosen slander on the GOAT.
Yes.
Anyway, Kyler Murray, I feel like he's just, actually, it's not even like I feel like he's definitely just been more productive just because he is a mobile quarterback, whereas Josh Rosen is not. Yeah. So he threw for 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. 27 completions on 44 attempts. And 3 rushes for 38 yards. So not a bad game by any means for Kyler Murray. Christian Kirk had a phenomenal game. 6 receptions, 138 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He caught all 3 touchdowns from Kyler Murray, which is fantastic.
He's great. Larry Fitzgerald also had a crazy catch where he bobbled it and got a really good sideline catch. That was awesome. And Kenyon Drake continues to be decently productive. This game was not as good. Actually, receiving, he wasn't very productive. He had 6 catches for 60 yards. But on the ground, 10 carries, 35 yards. Not bad. He's been a good acquisition for them, whereas David Johnson. He's been dreadful this season.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit of a hater. I've never been a big David Johnson guy, but this season he's been massively disappointing.
Yeah.
Done in Arizona after this season. I have to assume they're shipping him out.
Yeah, and Jameis Winston on the Buccaneers side.
He tried to lose this game. Jameis tried his hardest to make sure they lost this game, but he just couldn't do it. They won.
So Jameis Winston, he had 358 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 38 completions on 48 attempts. Mike Evans, decent game. 4 receptions, 82 yards.
I have to say, while Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber both got 11 carries, and on the ground at least, Peyton Barber seems to have been more productive, I have to say Ronald Jones is a lot better. And he's been last season he was massively disappointing as a high second-round pick. People were calling him a bust, and I mean that might still be true as a high second-rounder at running back. You expect more from him, but he's been pretty decent this season, definitely outperforming Peyton Barber. And on this game, I mean, only 29 yards with 11 carries, but he gets the touchdown and 77 yards in the air. I think he'll definitely be an important piece for them in the future, and I think it's good that he's finally finding his footing here in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, really close game, and Bruce Arians picks up the dub from his former team. He talked after the game saying how he knows a lot of people, and that was kind of sad. But yeah, so I mean, this didn't really matter. Neither of these teams are doing anything this season, but good game nonetheless. Next is we're getting into the no, this is the last one.
Hold on.
Oh, you got a little more? I'm sorry.
Just a little more.
I'm sorry.
O.J. Howard caught his first touchdown of the season.
The juice is finally loose.
O.J. Howard, 4 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. His first touchdown of the season.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who is brave enough to keep him, let alone on their team, but starting in fantasy, they've finally been rewarded.
Yeah, we'll get into fantasy later, but that I do want to say that those 4 receptions, mind you, are tied for the highest amount of receptions that he's had all year.
He's been a non-factor.
He's been an absolute non-factor. So.
I mean, tight ends in general have been Brait has done nothing this season either, who they have signed to a pretty big contract a couple years back. Yeah, it's been bad.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. I guess you wanted to move on earlier. So
yeah,
we have the Chicago Bears beat division rival the Detroit Lions 20-13. Chicago Bears improving to 4-5. Detroit Lions falling 3-5-1 on the season. 2 teams in the NFC North looking to be non-factors, I think, when it comes to the playoffs.
Shame.
Which is a shame. Jeff Driscoll, the
come on now,
quarterback for the Detroit Lions.
Come on now, we don't gotta go in on that.
69 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 27 completions, 46 attempts.
Going on Jeff like that.
He also had 5 rushes for 37 yards.
He led the team in rushing.
That's by 1 yard. J.D. McKissick had 36 yards.
Half the carries. Jeff Driscoll is arguably the greatest quarterback in the league, and maybe the best quarterback in this game. All right, that's messed up. He's probably not as good as Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky's better. Who actually had a pretty good game.
Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah, definitely. 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 16 completions, 23 attempts. That is a good stat line for this game. I know we were roasting Mitchell Trubisky earlier in the league or earlier in the podcast, but for sure, I just want to say Mitchell Trubisky still isn't good. I don't care what the stat line says; he's not that good. Bears fans are finally starting to realize that, or I think they actually did start realizing that their very first game of the season when they only scored 3 points against the Packers. Um,
Hold on. This is gonna be bad. Nick Kwiatkowski. I'm so sorry, but he stepped up for Danny Trevathan, who was injured this game in a big way. He was great. And Allen Robinson is continuing his quietly great season at receiver. He's been really good.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's easily the he's the best receiver on their team.
Well, he's been great. He's been, like I said, quietly. This is a great season.
If he just had a competent QB throwing to him, he'd be even better.
Yeah, I think him and Mitch misses him a lot. I think they have pretty good chemistry. But yeah, I'm a big Allen Robinson fan. I've always been a big fan of his ever since he started out in the Jags. I mean, there's not much else to talk about here. Pretty good game.
Yeah, it was a close game. I guess you kind of expect that. It was only a 7-point game. You would expect that from division rivals, but there's really not much to talk about. These are two teams who, as I said previously, are probably going to be non-factors in the playoffs.
Probably.
The Bears could be a factor. Detroit Lions, as it stands right now, no way.
Yeah.
Especially looking at the Vikings and Packers.
Yeah, especially with Matt Set injured, it's just not happening, unfortunately, for them. Yeah, which is a shame because they are way more fun than the as long as Matthew Stafford's there, they're way more fun than the Bears. I was really hoping they make a playoff push after that Eagles game, but they've just been disappointing. Right.
But moving on.
Oh boy.
It is time to talk about the boy, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick might be the greatest quarterback to ever step foot on a football field.
Okay, well, Stafford sucked. Anyway, okay, hold on. Before we get into that, the Miami Dolphins further destroy the perfect season, beating the Indianapolis Colts 16-12. The Miami Dolphins improving to 2-7. Indianapolis Colts falling 5-4.
I'm really impressed with Patrick.
Yeah. Brian Flores has been a really good coach for this seemingly atrocious offense, or not, but just team.
Yeah, the roster is atrocious.
Yeah. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw for 169 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick.
But he ran for a touchdown.
21 completions for 33 attempts. But he ran for a touchdown. Yeah, four carries, 23 yards. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the GOAT.
They might have the worst starting running back in the league because they traded away Kane Drake and Walton is suspended. But Kalen Ballage is truly atrocious. He is really slow. He's not very powerful. I don't really know what he does good. Nothing really. He's a pretty bad receiver. He's not good, and it's a shame. I was actually pretty high on him coming out, but that sounds weird. I was high on him coming out of college. He's, like I said, he's terrible. Easily the worst, I think, starting running back in the league right now. But on to a bigger story here, besides the Dolphins ruining their draft pick. The Colts, who started off the year incredibly hot, even being the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs, they are now falling to 5-4 with Brian Hoyer putting together an abysmal game at quarterback, throwing 3 interceptions to 1 touchdown, falling under 50% completion. His team's trying to help him win with Eric Ebron on a very bad season, a very disappointing season for Eric Ebron. But he stepped up this game, caught 5 passes for 56 yards, even though he lost a touchdown in the red zone, which turned into an interception. But I think it's time for Swag Kelly to step up. I'm tired of Brian.
Yeah. And the Colts, that's a huge story for the Colts, because Andrew Luck retired before the season even started, so that forced Jacoby Brissett to come up in a big role. He had no choice. Yeah, and he played really well. Really good stats. Can't really hold on to the ball too well. I think he had 3 or 4 fumbles, a few interceptions, but overall, Jacoby Brissett has been producing for the Colts, and you can't deny that.
Solid above average quarterback, slightly not super above, but I'd say slightly above average quarterback. I'd honestly rank him near Jimmy G, like in that standard. Pretty good.
Yeah.
But Brian Hoyer has been bad.
Yeah.
Swag Kelly.
You think so?
Oh, I know. So I would, dude. Swag Kelly is a preseason legend. He just gets in trouble a lot and is a bit foolish. But I need to see this man take the field as a starter before I die. And I think it's time. They're not gonna, at least not yet. I think they're gonna give Brian another chance here, but I'm tired of Hoyer. As a Browns fan especially, I don't need to see this man play another game. I'm ready for swag.
Oh, that's sad.
Marlon Mack continues to be productive, by the way.
Yeah.
He's great. On defense, Darius Leonard continues to be amazing. 11 tackles, a sack, and interception this game. Great game by him. Justin Houston got a sack. Jabal Shear with a sack. I mean, this defense is playing pretty well. I know it's the Dolphins, but with their terrible, terrible offense. But still. But yeah, great game for the Dolphins defense, actually. I know it was once again against Brian Hoyer, but, you know.
Right.
Better than what they've done all season.
It makes you think, though, like, do the Dolphins actually remember, like, you know, what they were supposed to be doing?
The players don't want to do that, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's not much else to talk about here. Let's move on to the Packers, which was a great game.
Yeah, very great game. The Green Bay Packers, continuing on with this role that they've been having, beating the Carolina Panthers 24-16. The Green Bay Packers improved to 8-2. Carolina Panthers fall to 5-4. Kyle Allen, all things considered, did have a good game still. 307 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick.
Killer pick. Bad throw. Decision.
Yeah. 28 completions on 43 attempts. Christian McCaffrey, not much else to say. Easily the best running back in the league. 20 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 33 yards. So, the Packers, Aaron Jones had, again, another phenomenal game. Aaron Rodgers continues to have this up and down, really weird season. Aaron Rodgers, 233 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 17 completions, 29 attempts. Aaron Jones, though, definitely the most talked about player in this game. 13 carries, 93 yards with 3 touchdowns.
I mean, I have to say, I wonder why they're splitting his carries a bit more this game. I don't know. I guess I only caught the end of this game. I feel now Williams played well. I would have still given most of the carries to Aaron Jones. He's just so explosive and makes so many plays that it's hard. Not give him the ball.
Well, going into this season with the Packers, Matt LaFleur, obviously a rookie head coach now, first year head coach. The most talked about thing was how he loved using 2 running backs.
He never really did effectively before, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
in this game it worked though.
Yeah, he has been allowing this offense, or the running backs on this offense, to produce, which for a while the Packers never really had with Eddie Lacy and then Ty Montgomery.
Big boy Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, big boy Eddie Lacy. So, there's still this weird inconsistency coming from Aaron Rodgers that even happened last season. Some games he would, not really have much production in terms of touchdowns, which is something we haven't really seen out of Aaron Rodgers. So these, the past season as well as this season has been really weird, pretty inconsistent for Aaron Rodgers. But he still remains to be an elite quarterback within the NFL. I feel like you can't really deny that, especially based on his track record. Aaron Rodgers, for all intents and purposes, is still a quarterback that, like, almost any team would want to have, besides, maybe the Chiefs, Deshaun Watson, or the Texans with Deshaun Watson.
And probably like the Pats and stuff.
Yeah,
I have to say, it's time to give the Lizard more time, more play time, more snaps.
Yeah, I think so.
The Lizard, Allen Lazard, favorite wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, but Devontae Adams, again, had another great game. 7 receptions, 118 yards. Top receiver in the NFL. The Packers, I think, need to get on to, they've had a great run game. But I think the Packers definitely need another receiver on their team besides just Devontae Adams. Jimmy Graham has been bad these last 2 seasons. He has definitely been a lot more productive this season than he was last. So, but I think another receiver would definitely be beneficial for the Packers, especially if they want one of the best offenses in the league, and they already do have that. Again, the Packers defense though, still not great, but definitely better than previous years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain about holding the Panthers to 16 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Although you got ran all over by McCaffrey, but a lot
Yeah,
of teams, I guess,
exactly.
could say that.
The run defense for the Packers still has been atrocious. But what can you do? I guess
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse, right? Yeah. Anyway, one more thing. DJ Moore, great game from DJ Moore and Greg Olsen, who I'd like to hear on Monday Night Football. Please stop Booger.
Yeah. Booger is bad.
We'll get to that. That's coming up.
Is it coming up?
Yeah. Anyway, next, I want to roll through this game because it was bad.
Cool.
Rams Steelers.
Let's just not even talk about that, dude.
Yeah, Jared Goff was atrocious.
The Rams.
Mason Rudolph not much better. Gurley not great. I mean, no one was great. Actually, Gurley. I mean, he averaged 6 yards a carry, but I don't know. It still wasn't a very.
He's not the running back that he was, and he never will be again, which is really sad. People. I see it on Twitter, or I guess just social media a lot. People are saying, hey, you got to give Todd Gurley more carries, and it's like, I don't think you guys actually understand how, degenerative arthritis works. So Todd Gurley, just don't expect him to be ever what he was in previous.
Yeah, I have a feeling he might get released or traded. Maybe not this offseason, but before the contract should end, because he's just not worth the money he's making. But he'll still be a good role player for any team. Like I said, I don't want to talk about this game. The run game for the Steelers is atrocious. Mason Rudolph was up and down as he usually is. Not great at moving the ball. At least he didn't throw an interception. This receiving core is not helping him. They're really, really bad. James Washington actually had I think this is probably his best game as a pro, but he's been really bad this whole season. Deontay Johnson's actually a guy I like, but he's up and down. He's a rookie though, 2nd-round rookie, someone to keep an eye out on. Although, like I said, I think he'll probably develop into a good wide receiver for them. Juju's still great, but only 3 catches for 44 yards. Yeah, the defense played well, I will say that. But besides the defensive play, there's not much else I'd like about this game. Watching it was unfortunate.
Yeah. I think didn't you turn this game off to turn on the?
Yeah, at the very. I won't lie. Didn't watch the very end of this game. I watched the last 3 minutes of the Packers game instead. It was just not a good game. Watch. Did not enjoy it. So on.
Not much to talk about. All right, final 2 games of this week in the NFL.
Fantastic games.
We had fantastic games. Both of them were. We had on Sunday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings beating the Dallas Cowboys 28-24. Minnesota Vikings improved to 7-3. The Dallas Cowboys fall 5-4. Kirk Cousins with a very good game. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 23 completions on 32 attempts. Dalvin Cook had a very good game as well, 26 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown.
7 catches on 86, or 7 catches for 86 yards too.
Yeah.
The average is a little lower at 3.7, but don't let that fool you. This was a great Dalvin Cook game. It was awesome, and it saved my ass in fantasy, so I appreciate it greatly. I also wanted to say, this isn't getting talked about much, and if you said this online, you probably get killed for it because everybody hates the Cowboys. But Dak Prescott is quietly having the best season of his career. He's playing great. I think they need to re-sign him. I know he's been pretty average, but he's been great this year, and he had a great game. I know he threw a pick, but fantastic game for him nonetheless. Almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Right. It was awesome. On the flip side, Ezekiel Elliott was trash.
Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott, not the running back that was so much fun to watch before. Now he is.
Watching him is the opposite of fun. I hate.
You can very clearly tell. When he was in his holdout or whatever he was doing in before the season started, he gained a few pounds.
Well,
I guess somebody was feeding Zeke, but.
He's not explosive. He's not fun to watch, and I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah, but I do got to give a little shout out here. Dak Prescott has had very good chemistry so far since they acquired him last year. Amari Cooper as well as Randall Cobb.
Cooper's been so good.
Yeah,
And Cobb had a great game as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Randall Cobb,
Michael Gallup's good
former
too.
Green Bay Packers.
I mean, their top 3 receivers have been great this year with Cooper, Cobb, and Gallup. They've been awesome.
Yeah. When Randall Cobb was signed to the Cowboys, I didn't think he was actually going to like do anything or
I figured he'd
too
get
much
pretty early.
But... Yeah, I figured he'd be that receiver. He has like 2 or 3 receptions a game for like 20 yards, But Randall Cobb, he's been decent, very solid with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, another bright spot of this game. Someone who only got 14 receiving yards, but don't let it fool you. Kyle Rudolph was amazing. He had an amazing touchdown on their, I think, opening drive, and he later got another. He was really good. I really like Kyle Rudolph. I always have. And on the defensive side, you saw some pretty good play. It's been a while, but DeMarcus Lawrence is finally. I think he can get a sack this game, but he had a lot of good pressure. The linebackers played pretty well. I was pretty impressed defensively. Not Sean Lee. Sean Lee did not have a great game. I think he had a killer penalty late. But besides that, I think they were pretty solid. Also, Madison, the second running back on the Vikings, he's a good little player as well. He's really nice. You just don't see him much because Dalvin Cook is so good. But he's someone to keep an eye on. And the GOAT fullback, C.J. Ham, killing it. -1 yards this game. Gotta love it. But yeah, that was a really good game. I say now, let's move on to some people are saying game of the year. Probably not mine, but it was a great game.
It was a great game. The Seattle Seahawks finally, the 49ers with their first loss of the season being beaten by the Seahawks 27-24. Seattle Seahawks improving to 8-2. 49ers fall to 8-1. Russell Wilson, talked about as future league MVP, threw for 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 24 completions on 34 attempts. Not his best game, but
okay, well, against probably the second best defense in the league.
Yeah, exactly. This was a very, very, very fun game to watch. Chris Carson had a decent game, 25 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Russell Wilson also had 53 rushing yards, 6 attempts. Yeah, fun game. It was just a really good game. I was happy to see the 49ers lose because never mind. Well, wow. Yeah.
Josh Gordon, he's back, baby.
Yeah.
He's back. What a guy.
Yeah.
2 catches? Yeah, 2 catches, 27 yards.
Yeah.
What a guy. I love Josh Gordon. He is my favorite wide receiver ever. I love Josh Gordon. I hope he succeeds wherever he goes. I wanted to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and his receivers were really disappointing. Jimmy Garoppolo he should have thrown far more than more interceptions than what he did. He had so many drop interceptions throughout the game. The stat line does not tell the full story, and his receivers were not doing him any favors. One of his interceptions was actually caused by a receiver. They were dropping nonstop. It was a really, really tough loss. And Kendrick Bourne, by the way, a receiver I like. I think an up-and-coming receiver I'm a pretty big fan of, but he had a rough game. He did get a touchdown, though, so there's that. But, yeah, their offense was desperately trying to lose it for them, and in the end, it happened. Like, I think this would have been a much different game if Emmanuel Sanders didn't get hurt early. I think you probably see the Niners remain undefeated. And in the end, they lose it because of their kicker, who they picked up off the streets because Robbie Gould was injured, and he shanked a kick that would have won them the game.
Did you actually like see that video though? Like, there was, it was the kick in overtime that, it was so bad. It wasn't even didn't even hit the net.
Yeah. No.
It was like it went into one of those entrances onto the field, like those big entrances that the players take. That's where I was looking for. It went so far off. That's where it landed. It landed in a tunnel. Yeah, you didn't see that video? You could probably go.
No, I haven't seen that. That's
where it landed. It didn't hit the ground or anything before that. It dead ass went past the entire field goal, past the net, over the crowd and into the tunnel. It was so bad.
Should be said that he made his other 3 field goal attempts. But yeah, that really,
it was up to that point, his longest field goal of the day was 47 yards. So overall, he didn't do bad. It's just when it came down to the pressure of, winning a game in overtime, because if they made the field goal, they would have won. I guess he just crumbled under the pressure. I guess crumble is saying it lightly, just because of.
He collapsed at that last.
Yeah, because that was probably one of the worst. That was probably worse than the Cody Parkey kicks, the double doinks.
Yeah, well,
because at least that hit the field goal. Good lord.
Moving on. What do we have next?
All right. So we went through introductions about this brand new channel that we're starting here. Talked about news, and we just did the game recaps. So, what we will usually do after game recaps now is we will look at the future upcoming games, and we will
pick them.
Pick them. We're gonna pick the winners. I don't know if we're gonna do scores. Probably not.
No, that'd be impossible.
We're at least gonna give our picks on who we think is gonna win the game, and give insight, as to why we think they're gonna win. So. Okay. I was unprepared. Oh, wait, no, they're right here. All right. So, Thursday.
Here we go, baby.
And Browns.
Steelers and Browns. I
win this one, Jack.
It's funny. If you asked me this 3 weeks ago, I would have told you Browns running away with it, but the Steelers have been – I don't like him, but Mike Tomlin has coached them so well recently. Their defense has been playing lights out, and even Mason Rudolph is being somewhat productive. I have to say it's a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Browns.
All right. Well, you're picking your favorite team.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have to go through that pressure because the Packers are on a bye week. But, you don't know
the pain I feel.
All right. Well, as well as the Steelers have been performing, I guess you could say, without Ben Roethlisberger, I think the Browns win. The Browns win over the Bills this week is really going to be the momentum pusher, or the momentum that they're going to need going in against the Steelers, division rival. Honestly, I got to go with the Browns here. I think if they can just shut down the Steelers on offense and try to have Nick Chubb as the primary focus within this game, I think the Browns can sneak away with the win here. I don't think it will be an absolute blowout of a win. I think whoever wins this game, it's going to be fairly close. However, I do got to give it to the Browns here. I think Baker Mayfield, coming off of his best game of the season, I think he can lead the Browns to beat the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree.
You are right.
What?
You recording these picks?
Oh, yeah, I'm writing it all down.
Cool.
Oh, heck yeah. Next, we have the Jets and the Redskins.
Oh, that's a banger game right there.
Yeah, Jets at Redskins. So, I guess that's important.
Redskins, actually, I don't think we talked about this in the news, but the Redskins announced that, I forget exactly when, but they've announced that Dwayne Haskins is going to be their starter for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I kind of figured as much. You might as well. Yeah. He's been really bad.
Yeah. I'm going to have to give this to the Redskins.
Huh?
Yes. And I only say that because Sam Darnold has not played well this season.
No, I agree. I'm really taking in what you just told me, that you're picking the Redskins in 20
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Jets coming off of a much needed win against the Giants. I can just see this being a game that the Jets absolutely screw up. I can just see the Redskins coming away with a win here.
I can't see the Redskins being a single team in the NFL, and I think their only win was against a Dolphins team that was, peak Dolphins teaming. They were really bad, but they've gotten better and better every week, and I really think the Redskins could not beat the Dolphins. I don't think the Redskins could beat the Bengals. I think the Redskins are probably the worst team in the NFL, although they might be able to pull one out against the Bengals. That would be whoever's home, I'd probably pick the win. But they're really bad, so I have to pick the Jets.
All right.
Anyway, next, Jags and Colts. Jags at Colts, should I say?
So this is Nick Foles' return game. right?
Yep.
Yeah, I got to go with the Jaguars here. Got to. I don't know if Jacoby Brissett's playing,
I
right?
don't think he
I don't
is.
think he is.
Fairly
Yeah, it's
certain.
Brian Hoyer still. So just on that aspect alone, Brian Hoyer on offense for the Colts, I got to go with the Jags here. Nick Foles coming off an injury. Um, I,
He
I
looked great in the beginning of the season before he got hurt. He threw
yeah,
a
yeah, he
drive
looked
and a
great.
touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. So Nick Foles, I think, is going to lead this team to beat the Colts. And I'm going to go out on a limb and just say I think this game is going to straight up be a blowout. I don't think,
I could see it.
yeah, I don't think this is going to be a close game at all. The previous two games, Steelers and Browns, Jets and Redskins, I could see them being close games. Whoever wins, I think it'll be close regardless. But this, I can see the Jaguars just dismantling the Colts.
Yeah, and their O-line is good, but Calais Campbell is currently having an all-pro type season. He's been great, so
Right.
I think he'll get a piece of Brian Hoyer. That being said, this pick, I'm going with the Jags, but I'm saying it is subject to change. If I find out Swag Kelly is starting this game, I'm moving the pick. I'm picking Colts. But for now, I'll go with Jags because Swag Kelly is not starting.
Well, that's just no fair. That's not fair. I'm not changing any of my picks.
All right, fine. I'll keep it Jags. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, there you go.
If Swag Kelly comes in, however, and absolutely dismantles this Jalen Ramsey-less Jags defense, I'm gonna be a little pissed, but fine.
Right.
Anyway, let's keep her going. Next we have Bills at Dolphins.
This is pretty easy.
Yeah, bounce back game for the Bills.
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to win.
I mean, it is at Dolphins, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's playing pretty well right now. But I
don't know. I just think the Bills secondary is very good.
Very good. One of the best.
Their run defense hasn't been good at all, but the Dolphins don't have a good running back, so I think that's just
they have the worst running back in the league.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to even out. I 100%. You can't change my mind. Bills are going to win this game.
Yeah, I think it'd be foolish to choose otherwise.
Right.
Next, Cowboys, Lions.
Cowboys.
It's at Lions, and this is kind of fun. If it had Matthew Stafford, I'd actually probably choose the Lions. But with good old Driscoll in there, I'm also going to go with the Cowboys. Dak's having a great season, as we talked about prior.
Yeah, Dak's having a good season.
This would be a tough game
without Matt Staff. If Matt Staff was playing, I think I would have to think about it a little bit. I feel like I'd still go Cowboys, but I just can't see the Lions in any facet getting away with this win here.
Yeah, this one's a fun one.
Texans and Ravens.
Yeah, Texans and Ravens. That is a tough one. It's at Ravens, but this is a fun game. I'm really excited for this game. It's a 1 p.m. I hope it gets flexed out because I really like this to be the
I am going to go with the Texans. Ooh. I think Deshaun Watson has been having a really good year. Lamar Jackson, as I said, is still a top quarterback within the league. But this is just a game I could see, I could see it being a shootout for sure.
I think it will be.
But, yeah, but I have to give it to the Texans here.
I'm going to go Ravens because I think the Ravens O-line has been playing pretty well, and I think they'll have a fine time keeping track of the J.J. Wattless Texans D-line. I think they'll keep them in check.
Well, you see, my thinking is the Texans have a really good receiving core.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, so – and the Ravens just don't have that. Deshaun Watson has so many weapons to throw to that I think eventually it's going to become overwhelming for the Ravens defense. And
I'm a big fan of the Ravens 1-2 at corner. Marlon Humphrey is having a fantastic year, and like I said, Marcus Peters is playing really well since being traded. So I think they'll do a decent job of keeping them in check. But the problem is you have to cover Kenny Stills. You have to cover three receivers, that are great. You have to cover, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenny Stills, and oh my God, what's his name? Will. What's his name? Oh, Will Fuller. Yeah, that's right.
I said.
Yeah, okay. Will Fuller. So you can't cover all three of them with two of them. So yeah, I'm still gonna go Ravens though. But anyway, next, Falcons at Panthers. This is where I'm gonna get a little wild. I'm picking Falcons here.
Yeah, I'm picking the Falcons as well.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So the Panthers just came off of a loss to the Packers. I feel like if the Panthers do get a win here, it's definitely going to be because of Christian McCaffrey. But the Falcons have played The record sucks. The record is very bad, but
They've probably been better than their record shows, but I wouldn't say
yeah,
by that
they've
much.
definitely been better than what their record shows. So I just gotta go with the Falcons,
Yeah, I'm taking the
simply based
momentum
on
here.
they've been good.
I'm taking
Yeah,
the momentum.
exactly. They're coming off of a huge win against a good Saints team. So
Yeah, and the Panthers
yeah,
coming off a pretty big loss.
exactly.
Big loss. So yeah, I'll go with the two. Saints Bucks. I think the Saints, even though it's at Bucks, I think the Saints rebound here, get the job done.
Yeah. I have to. God, we have all the same picks.
Yeah, a couple different ones. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta go with the Saints. It's the Saints. It's Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, not much to say there. No one's
Yeah.
covering them.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
Bucks.
Regardless of that loss to the Falcons, who cares? I
Yeah.
think the Saints are still one of the best overall teams in the entire NFL,
Yeah, I don't know
and
who's
it is
covering.
going to be very hard for Jameis Winston to show any sign of offense against this Saints team.
Yeah, their
So,
defense is really good too, and I mean he
yeah,
loves throwing interceptions, so I think he'll throw a couple this game as well.
yeah.
Next, the Broncos at the Vikings. Brandon Allen, might be the GOAT. Might have flamed up the Browns. That
Well,
being said, I will be taking the Vikings.
yeah, I got it. Yeah, this is a no-brainer.
Not much to say on this
Yeah,
one. Dalvin
yeah,
Cook is going to
exactly,
have a field day.
exactly.
All right, moving on. Moving on. Cardinals at Niners. Once again, a pretty easy one. While the Cardinals are showing a lot more than the Broncos are, I think poor Kyler is going to get torn apart by this Niners D line.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say the Cardinals here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think the 49ers, they have a shorter week to prepare. Um, but
That's true.
I gotta say, I think losing to the Seahawks
He's going to
in a
mess up the momentum.
prime time game, I think they completely screwed their momentum. Um, I can just see the Cardinals sneaking by with a win here.
Okay. This next game, I'm very excited to watch. I will be watching this, no matter what
Yes.
games I'm supposed to be covering. The Patriots at Eagles, and I'm taking the Eagles here. This is what the Eagles do. The Eagles beat teams that they're not supposed to. They beat the Packers. They overachieve. And they're really fun teams when they want to be. Their receiving core has been atrocious this year. Their drops have been really bad, and they're going to be locked down by Stephon Gilmore and company. But I just think somehow, some way, Carson Wentz is going to find a way to squeeze out a win here against a reeling Patriots team who just came off a loss from the Ravens. I think they lose another to the Eagles at home. Well, at Eagles home, should I say?
So I'm gonna say the Patriots here. I think the Patriots defense, along with the Eagles receiving core, it's just gonna be a complete mismatch.
That's true.
I
That is
think
true.
the Patriots are pretty easily going to overwhelm the Eagles. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout per se, but I think this is going to be at least like a two-score game. I think the Patriots are gonna come away with it here.
So I think it'll be a good game no matter what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is a game that. Oh no, never mind. I was about to say, actually, I don't want to watch this game either. But Bengals Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah, it's at home for the Raiders, no less.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, I don't know if it is. I think they might be. Is this the New Mexico game? Or am I wrong?
Might be.
Maybe it is. I don't care. Raiders coming away with the win. It's the Bengals. I won't pick the Bengals unless they either play the Redskins at home, or which I don't think they play this year, or something, or they win on their own. I will not be picking them all year. So yeah, not much else to say on that. The next game, however, is a game that I don't want to watch, but it's at 8, so I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. I gotta go with the Bears here. I think Jared Goff hasn't been good this season.
No, he's been a hard watch.
Yeah, and this Bears defense, I mean, let's face it, this is going to be a purely defensive game. So if you don't like games where it's not a high scoring affair, this probably isn't a game you should watch. Because let's face it, both teams will probably score under 20 points in this. I gotta say the Bears, even though they have Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, I think they can easily beat the Rams.
I think it'll be probably a one-score. I would bet money that it would be a one-score game. I'm gonna take the Rams at home to squeeze one out, even though it'll probably be half Bears fans, if not more than half anyway. But I'm gonna take the Rams at home. I just feel like this will be a good bounce back win for them. I think they're gonna prepare really well for this. I think Aaron Donald's going to put a lot of pressure on Mitch Trubisky, and I think they'll just squeeze this one out. I mean, it could come down to a missed kick by Eddie Pinheiro, and that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Lastly, we have a game that I think will be pretty fun, although a bit predictable, Chiefs at Chargers. I'm going to take Chiefs here because I think this is a bounce-back game for Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to fall anymore, too. I think it will be 6-5 if they lost here. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, just the Chiefs just came off of a loss to the Titans, and
it was a fluky loss.
Yeah, and it was a fluky loss, and Patrick Mahomes threw for over 400 yards, and that was coming off of an injury. He was out for a few weeks. So, against this Chargers team that, number one, has an awful offensive line, so hopefully this Chiefs defense isn't
I think it'll be a bounce back for them because they just lost Emmanuel Ogbah, who was the only thing giving them juice on that line. It's gonna be rough.
So,
I mean, you have Jones, but
yeah, I gotta agree with that. But I just can. This is just something that I think the Chiefs are gonna strike really hard and really quick in the game, and I think, yeah, and I think that, they're I'm talking like an NFL like sports commentator right now, but like
I'm tired of getting the taste of. All right, anyway,
continue. All right, but I can just totally see the Chiefs. If the Chargers can't get anything done productive on offense early on, I think the Chiefs are easily going to run away with this one.
Yeah, I could see it being a bit of a shootout, but I would be hard-pressed to see a Chargers win. Although I think this will be a great game for the running backs for the Chargers. I think Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon will actually perform pretty well against that D-line. So we'll see. It'll be good for Melvin Gordon to continue to improve, as well as Austin Eckler to maybe get a chance to get some touches. But that's all for the picks. That's all the games next week.
So I was thinking, at this point, would you want to do fantasy or do you want to do the midseason awards?
Oh, that midseason awards I gotta do last. It's the segment.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So next fantasy.
All right. So fantasy. So every week we're gonna try and do a fantasy segment depending on how long the podcast runs. I guess it won't really matter.
Assuming it's in the season, of course. Off season.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably in off season we'll probably do a couple mock drafts, or at least one mock draft.
We are really good college player analysts, by the way. It's important.
Yes, exactly.
I watch college football.
So every week, we want to try and do something of looking through fantasy options, players that are obvious starts and players that you should probably think twice about starting. We do have a league right now. It's an 8-man league. We're looking to add 2 people so we can at least have a 10-man league, so it's somewhat competitive.
I'm 8-2, baby.
Yeah, I am 5-5.
Too easy. Too easy. Hey, and if Tom Brady's ever on free agency, you should pick him up.
Yeah.
Nice, Alex.
All right. Well,
anyway.
So, I think there's some players I feel like we should avoid talking about. Because they're obvious no-brainer. Like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, you have Christian McCaffrey. Start him every week. There's no reason why you shouldn't be starting somebody like Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams. So, Patrick Mahomes, he is a definite must start as well.
Yeah.
So, how do you want to go about this?
Well, I've got a player that I think is an easy start here. And now you may be saying, well, you're only saying this because you're starting him this week. Shut your mouth. Baker Mayfield. Now, hold on. He is playing against a really good Pittsburgh defense. I think they're ranked top 5 in DVOA, defensive DVOA. They're really good defense. That being said, Baker's on a roll, and I'm going to start him. Now, once again, there's a 50-50 chance I'm saying this because I want him to do well, because I am going to be starting him. But that's neither here nor there. I think he'll be good, and I think someone you should definitely avoid is Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think a lot of people will be starting him because he's been performing pretty well in fantasy. Last week he only scored 13, but the week before he had 23. I think he'll be torn apart by the Buffalo Bills. And one more underrated quarterback, a quarterback I think a lot of people are going to be picking up off free agency if he's available to start, is Derek Carr versus Cincy. I'd probably steer clear of that. I don't trust Derek Carr in fantasy, even against the Cincinnati Bengals. I just don't think it's good enough when it comes to fantasy, at least.
Right. So an underrated pick, I guess, going into this year was for tight end was Austin Hooper. I know that he fell in a lot of leagues, which, to be fair, I guess most tight ends do, unless it's like top tight ends like Travis Kelce or George Kittle. But Austin Hooper, very quietly, has been putting together a great fantasy season. The lowest amount of points that he scored all season was week 2 against Philadelphia, in which he scored 5.4 points. Actually, we're doing 0.5 PPR, so I guess it would be what, 5.9 if it was 1 PPR, I believe.
Yeah, sure, dude.
Yeah, sure.
Talking to math man
here. Yeah. Anyway, Austin Hooper, if you do have him on your team, I believe right now he's questionable, so that's lovely. So yeah, Austin Hooper is a definite must start if you have him in fantasy. He has been targeted in the end zone in each of his last 4 games, and he has gotten a touchdown as well. So, very much a solid tight end candidate in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, another one I actually wanted to mention, but I forgot. A definite sit for me is Sony Michel at Philly. He's been a bit unimpressive in general, but against Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, I can't say start him unless you have no other options that are viable. I would highly recommend sitting him this week.
Yeah. Another one for me, now this isn't someone that I think you should start. This is somebody I think you should be actually very wary of starting, at least the way that he's performed in fantasy, is surprisingly OBJ.
I have him benched in one of my leagues, and it's a 10-man, so
yeah. His highest scoring game was against the New York Jets, in which he scored 25.1 points for us. For anyone playing normal PPR, it would be 25.6, I believe. But regardless, I'm looking at like our fantasy stats, and we have a custom league. We do 0.5 PPR, 8-man league, and it is a keeper league too, so we get to keep 3 players at the end of every season. But yeah, OBJ has not been solid in fantasy at all this year. Very much, I would want to say up and down, but he hasn't had too many ups. He has had like 1 up all season. So I don't want to say he is somebody you shouldn't start, but if you have other options, they are very much to be considered, depending on who they are, of course.
Yeah. Another start, which I'm assuming if you have at least DJ Moore, you're probably going to start him. But the duo of DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel against Atlanta, I am totally all for starting both. I know they did a pretty good job dealing with the Saints, but Michael Thomas had over 150 yards in them. I'm starting both of them if I have them in any of my leagues. I think against Atlanta, that's a great option at wide receiver. Also, another one is Melvin Gordon. Like I said, he gets better every week, and that works for fantasy as well. And against a Kansas City defense that just lost Emmanuel Ogbah, I'm a big fan of starting Melvin Gordon.
Right. Now, this week, he's on a bye week, actually, this week. But if you have Aaron Jones in leagues, he is definitely someone you should be now starting every single week. He has had, I think, 1 game recently in which he only scored for us it was like 3.4 points, and then in normal PPR it would be 3.9. But this season, Aaron Jones has been absolutely insane. He has, I believe, the most touchdowns in the league. If not, he's tied with Christian McCaffrey for it. But Aaron Jones has been absolutely phenomenal. And if anybody ended up picking him up in free agency or drafted him, definitely not a player you want to give up at all.
Yeah, a bench for me this week, and I've actually been pretty. He's been getting, I guess, slandered a little bit, especially by the guy who has him in the league we have together. He's pretty much benched him almost all year, and I've been a bit against it. But I have to say here it's appropriate. Juju Smith-Schuster, I can't, with a good heart, tell you to play him when he's probably going to be matched up with. Actually, you know what? He might not get matched up with Denzel Ward. He's really big. And anyway, it doesn't matter. I would not play him when playing the Browns. Their secondary's played pretty well this year. I just can't. And while, poor little Mason Rudolph was running for his life for Myles Garrett, I can't. Oh, you know what? When we were talking about that game, I forgot. I was supposed to talk about Marquise Pouncey, their center. He's bad. Anyway.
Thanks.
That's anyway. Yeah. So I can't with a good heart tell you to start Juju. I'd say bench him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any others?
So this week, I mean, he's a starter every week, but Matt Ryan, I think, very much can throw for or can have over 20 points against Carolina. I think he is definitely a must start, especially this week and all other weeks, because he has actually been fine.
Oh, nice.
His worst outing was 2.5 points. But before that, or 2.6 points, my bad. Before that, he only had, or his lowest point total before the Rams game was only 15 points. So he has been a great starter all season, and he should continue to stay as such.
Yeah, I agree. And
anyone who's watching, by the way, which isn't going to be a lot, but
my mom might watch.
That's
or listen.
Terrific.
Hi, Mom.
If we do have any viewers that maybe want to check out this podcast or somehow stumble across it, if you guys do have any fantasy questions, we're not experts, but we could at least try our best to give you an opinion on people you should start and sit. We do have Instagram and Twitter. I'm gonna link them in the description, and also I guess put them on the screen. But I'll just say it right now, in case we do have any audio-only listeners, I will say it. Our Instagram is going to be 4th and 9 draw. And on Twitter, we are... Let me find it.
Oh, hell
yeah. Oh, God. I can't find it. All right,
it's 4th and 9 draw podcast.
It's just 4th and 9 draw. The ad is just 4th and 9 draw. Come on, Jack. Oh.
On to the next segment. On to the next segment, we have the super special ultra mega session segment of the week.
Mid-season awards.
Mid-season awards.
We should go from the list that you gave me. We should go from bottom to top.
Bottom. You're crazy. All right.
Well, so that we can end it with MVP.
Oh, yeah. Well, then my guy's we're about to flame some people right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because we're starting with the worst coach so far of the 2019 season.
And from what I understand, you and I might have differing opinions, but somewhat agreeing.
But mine is more of a personal vendetta. I think otherwise I'd probably do yours as well and have this one a second. But I am pissed. Freddie Kitchens is my pick for this. And let me explain. I know, he is. You could argue, well, why are you going with a guy who, someone literally got fired this season. Jay Gruden got fired from the Redskins already. And you're going with a guy who is, I don't even know if Jay Gruden would count because he's not. that's neither here nor there. I have to go with Freddie Kitchens here because Freddie Kitchens has a top 5 team in terms of talent. The talent on this team is unreal. And some of the play calls. This podcast is named after one of his play calls. Fourth and 9 draw is because I came up with the name because of Freddie Kitchens' play call, calling a draw play on 4th and 9. How do you do that? I just don't understand. It's 2019, and okay, I'm not going to get into that. But Freddie Kitchens, his play calling and choices have been really bad. He's challenging a million things a game, and it never works. He challenges a lot of pass interference calls, and they don't work out. Until Kareem Hunt got unsuspended, he has been oddly playing Dontrell Hilliard on 3rd down, giving him carries at the goal line, putting him out, carries or giving him snaps when he's a receiving back. And he's not better at Nick Chubb. He's not better than Nick Chubb at anything, but he's on the field constantly. He's caused an interception when trying to catch a pass, literally essentially giving it to a Seahawks defender, losing us the game. He's really bad. He doesn't fight for yards. He can't make anyone miss. He's not a good returnman. I'm not sure what he does well, but I think he knows something about Freddie Kitchens. I think he must, because he, before Kareem Hunt came along, was on the field about 10 times more than he should have been. And this has gone on to attack.
Yeah, you're attacking.
Dontrell Hilliard, dude, he's
guy.
pissed. He's pissed. I'm sorry, Dontrell Hilliard. I'm sure he's a pretty nice guy, but I just don't like seeing you on the field. Anyway, Freddie Kitchens has just not been good. Not letting Rashad Higgins play, the play calling, the trying to just force Odell screen passes instead of designing plays for him to go deep or even do slants. It's just, it boggles my mind sometimes. And I'm not sure where we go from here, but I don't think he gets a second year. And if he does, I don't think it goes well. Anyway, what was your pick?
So I actually wanted to say I actually agree with Freddie Kitchens. I do have a different pick, but I just wanted to dwell on Freddie Kitchens just so we can extend this a little bit more. So I am not a Browns fan, but from the few Browns games that I have watched this year, this absolutely talented team has just crapped the bed. And it's not just that, because even the best talent has down games. That's something that we always see, but the play calling has just been absolutely atrocious on the Browns. And that the play calling falls on one person. And you can argue that although the play calling is bad, sometimes the execution of said plays is bad, but there are certain plays that, even as just a football fan, just seeing them being called, the 4th and 9 draw, for instance. What idiot?
That blew my mind. I was yelling.
What idiot calls a draw play on 4th and? It's absolutely insane.
It's a shame. I like Freddie Kitchens, by the way, as a person. He seems like a really kind guy. He seems like a really gentle, nice guy. He's just not a good football coach.
Yeah, exactly. This has just not been. Yeah, he has just not coached this team the way that it should be.
I can't shit on the Browns for the. Oh, yeah. Oops. I can't get on the Browns or John Dorsey too much for this, because when we were choosing our coach, I was full on Freddie Kitchens supporter. I was all about Freddie Kitchens. I thought that's the guy that we needed. I will say I didn't think there was many good options, so I thought he was the best of the options. But I was pretty into the Freddie Kitchens train. But yeah, it's obvious that some of the critics that were saying he would get overwhelmed, they seem to be correct. And I think it's time that we, after this season, let him go. I think we don't fire him mid-season. I think that's foolish. But I think after the season, we let him go and try to find someone else. I know it's his first year, but we can't be wasting this roster.
Right.
Anyway.
So my pick is Adam Gase. The Jets, I want to say, are a disappointing team, but I don't think their roster warrants them to be disappointing. I think they were still going to be mediocre regardless. However, this is not a mediocre Jets team. This is an atrocious Jets team.
It's funny. I had them in at 9-7 and 10-6 this year. I was into them.
Yeah. See, I didn't think that. I had them at like 7-9, 8-8. But regardless, that is still miles better than what they are currently projected to go. Because this Jets team, led by Sam Darnold, has been crap. Like, there's just absolutely no defending it. Sam Darnold has played like crap this year. Le'Veon Bell, I still argue, has been productive, simply because he's been used in more of a receiving back role. However, in terms of rushing, he has not been productive whatsoever. But Adam Gase has been way too conservative with his play calling. And the problem is that Adam Gase stays conservative even when his team is getting blown out. When a team is getting blown out, in my personal opinion, that is not the time to be conservative. Because while you're going to lose the game regardless, at that point you're just playing for pride. You want to take shots. That's if you're getting blown out, then whatever. You just lose by even more. Who cares at that point? But yeah, Adam Gase went from the Dolphins, in which he didn't coach well there, and now he's on the Jets with an even better roster and is coaching even worse. So Adam Gase is 100% my pick for worst coach of the year. I gotta say though, I do agree with the Freddie Kitchens coach of the year. Personally, I think Adam Gase has been worse, but
he probably has. I'd say, but
the thing is, Adam Gase, the only defense that you can have for Adam Gase is the fact that he doesn't have the roster that the Browns do. The Browns, I think, if their O-line was just a little bit better, they would easily have one of the best overall rosters in the entire NFL. And even without a good O-line, they still have one of the better overall teams in the NFL. So Freddie Kitchens, I agree, but Adam Gase has just been absolutely atrocious on this Jets team.
Yeah, like I said, that's probably the pick I'd go with. Some other coaches that almost made the cut for me were Zach Taylor on the Bengals was one. Jay Gruden on the Redskins, although I couldn't wholeheartedly do that. I think Jay Gruden was given just a terrible team, but that is one that I could see. That's probably about it. Those are probably the ones that actually came close for me.
Yeah, I agree with those as well.
And of course, your pick. But anyway, next is one that we've just pretty much talked it to death just now, and it's a pretty easy award. I only included it in there because I think it's one, if we get to this point next year, I'd like to do again as a segment. I'd like to have this one in there as well. But disappointing team of the year, I mean, it's the Browns, right? It's pretty simple. Yeah, for sure. The Browns in the offseason made some pretty huge moves. Even these last two off seasons, they've made some huge moves, and then even like in last year's draft, drafting Baker Mayfield first overall, and then Denzel Ward fourth overall, and then Nick Chubb in the second round. So they have the pieces. They easily do. They have easily one of the best receivers in the NFL with OBJ, and then even Jarvis Landry, who is Jarvis Landry is a top number 2.
Yeah, exactly. And the O-line, of course, that's trash. But, now they have in the backfield with Baker, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who Kareem Hunt is a great running back, and Nick Chubb, I think, can be amazing. Yeah. And then you look at their defense, and, Denzel Ward was a top-performing corner last year. Greedy Williams, who they drafted this year, but
he's played pretty well. No, he's been good.
And then you have, of course, Myles Garrett.
David Ogunjobi. I always mess that one up if I say it fast. You have Mac Wilson, who is a fifth-round rookie who's playing pretty well. I mean, Terrence Mitchell as your cornerback 3, you could do a lot worse. TJ Carey's good for a 4. I mean, they're a good team.
Demarius Randall.
Well, I will say this season he has not been nearly as good as last season. He's actually struggled a bit. He's also been injured. And he had a decent game last week, actually. So, the defense should be good. Although the defense hasn't been the problem. They've not been the best, but they've been average, which is all you can really ask for. I think Wilkes has done a decent enough job. The offense has been the real disappointment here.
Right. But with that being said, I'm pretty sure the hype, regardless of what we say about this, I think the hype during the offseason that the Browns had spoke for itself. People, whether they were Browns fans or not, were expecting a lot out of this Browns
I
team,
mean,
and
a lot
so
of people
far
were saying
they have.
people, not me, but a lot of people.
Yeah, but regardless, damn, you made me lose my train of thought, dude.
I know the feeling.
But regardless, okay, there we go. The hype that surrounded the Browns the entire offseason has proved to be just that hype. And the Browns have, as the award states, have been the most disappointing team of the year,
I
without a
think
doubt.
Yeah, I think it's a bit. I mean, there's not even. You could argue some teams like the Jets have been really disappointing, and the Falcons, but they don't compare. I think the Browns team not only is it the most disappointing team of the year, they're one of the most disappointing teams of recent history. Maybe the most disappointing team since the 8-8 Eagles team that was donned as the super team or whatever. But yeah, they're up there as one of the most disappointing teams of all time. Now, that being said, there's still time for them to pull it together. And who knows if they can? I will say this: if they can somehow pull out 10-6, I will probably change this pick. But as it stands, they have been horrendously disappointing.
Well, it is mid-season, so
Yes,
um, we,
lots of
we, we
change.
aren't we aren't in the off season yet, but we're almost
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I will say, I was not expecting to have even a positive record coming out of these first 9 games. I was actually probably expecting a bit of an even record because their beginning schedule was brutal. However, I was not expecting a blowout loss to the Titans in week 1 and losing to freaking Brandon Allen of all people pretty handily. That's when I draw the freaking line. How are you going to lose handily to Brandon Allen? And their loss to the Niners. I'm rambling a bit, but that loss to the Niners is the hardest loss. I figured they lose to the Niners with how they're playing this year. Don't get me wrong, but the brutal fashion, it was just hard to watch. It was like they didn't have a chance from the very beginning.
Right.
I mean, from the first drive, I couldn't watch anymore. But anyway, enough about the freaking Browns. I'm getting sick.
You're not
Oh
gonna
wait,
like.
no, we're
Yeah,
not done yet.
yeah, we're not done yet.
It's Baker Mayfield for me.
It's OBJ for me.
Now, I could see this one already trending into changing. If Baker can keep up what he's doing, I'll probably change this pick because he's put together 2 nice games, a really nice game last week, and the week before a decent game. So if he can keep putting together good games, this will change. But as it stands, Baker has been an eyesore to watch in the field, and not always his fault. A lot of the time, his receivers are not doing him favors. He's had some pretty unlucky interceptions, but I digress. His decision making hasn't been great, and once again, the play calling hasn't helped. But he's been disappointing considering he was a record-breaking rookie, throwing for the most touchdowns from a rookie ever. Going to this, where, I mean,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing as a Browns fan.
Yeah. Mine isn't like too far off from that. Mine is OBJ, and OBJ can't, he can't really do much if you don't have good quarterback play. So but yeah, I do gotta I agree with Baker. Baker's been very disappointing. A lot of people wanted him to do good, I think, as well as a lot of people who probably wanted him to do bad and are hyped right now. But yeah, OBJ, getting a change of scenery in Cleveland, he had what people thought to be a better quarterback throwing to him over Eli and Daniel Jones. So my fantasy is crying right now because
I mean, talk about fantasy disappointments too.
Yeah, really.
It's been brutal. I have him in another one of my leagues, and I literally have him benched. And it's not a small league. I mean, it's a 10-man, which is pretty standard, I feel. But I have him benched over, some questionable wide receivers who just can't do better than him. It's just he's not worth it. And once again, a lot of that is quarterback accuracy, but he has had some drop issues. And also, I think he's been really messed up from the play calling because they have him running deep sometimes, and Baker doesn't even look at him. And then they need to do more slants. He had that amazing slant touchdown against the Jets. They need to do more of that. I think we need to see a lot more of that, a lot less of these curl routes and screens too.
Right.
But anyway, enough about the freaking Browns. I know this one won't have a Brown, so we can finally move on. The breakout player of the year, I will start. I have Lamar Jackson. Not to toot my own horn, but I've been saying throughout the offseason, I wasn't really pushing this, but I felt he was going to make a bit of a step up and be pretty good because, like I said, what I was saying was if he could develop, to be a good passer as well as a runner, he'd be amazing, and that's what he's done. He's actually far exceeded my expectations. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was expecting this, but yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, defenses don't know what to do. A lot of people were saying that he would be screwed over when it came to running because defenses would figure it out by watching the tape, but evidently they haven't. No one can stop this man from running. When he doesn't go off when he's running, if he has a game where he doesn't pop off on the ground, it's because he doesn't want to. It's because he's passing for like three plus touchdowns and he doesn't need to run. I mean, right. He's fantastic. You can't contain him. And he's throwing to everybody. His tight ends, he loves his tight ends, actually. They're getting the ball. Marquise Brown, the rookie wide receiver from the first round, they've had a really good connection. Him and even Willie Snead's done decent. It's just been he's been electric. And he has transformed that Ravens offense from Joe Flacco.
Right. So this was actually a little bit difficult for me. Because I narrowed it down to 2 players, and they were both running backs. Mm-hmm. It was actually 3. I was going to do Lamar Jackson as well, actually. But since you just said Lamar, I am not saying it.
It sounds like you're calling him a running back there because you said they were both running backs.
No. 2. No, okay, no, sorry, my bad, no. But the 2 that I narrowed it down to was Aaron Jones and Nick Chubb. And the reason I chose Nick Chubb for breakout player this year was because at the beginning of last year, or last year, Nick Chubb, how far in was it before they actually started like playing him for real?
I'd say it was week 6 or 7. He got
week 6 or 7, yeah. So this is Nick Chubb's first year in which he is actually being used correctly. Yeah, exactly. The whole year.
It was fantastic last year when he started too.
Yes, exactly. That's why I didn't know if I wanted to have him as number 1 or not. But I narrowed it down between him and Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones last year was just not being utilized correctly, at least in the first half of the season when the Packers still had Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was still doing uber vanilla plays and just not utilizing Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones did have a couple good games under Mike McCarthy, but for the most part, it was Mike McCarthy still trying to have Aaron Rodgers just force feed the ball to Devontae Adams, which in a league like this, coaches recognize that and easily shut that game plan down, which is why Aaron Rodgers was just not that productive last season. So this year, Aaron Jones has stepped up in Matt LaFleur's play calling, and he has been utilized correctly, I think.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so Aaron Jones has easily had the best season of his entire career so far, and it's not even close.
I mean, go figure when you give a player that looks to be good a chance to play more.
Yeah.
He's still good.
Yeah, exactly. My only concerns with Aaron Jones is how small he is and his ability to not be able to stay healthy for too long. He was injured. He has not played a full season yet because he's been injured.
Which at running back is common, I will say.
It is common, especially for a smaller guy like Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
It is common. So that's why I do, as much as I love Aaron Jones, I do have to give breakout player of the year to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, hell yeah. You know what? I have to agree.
But seriously though, it does go to Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb has been absolutely phenomenal this year behind a less than stellar O-line.
Once again, the Browns O-line, good guard in Joel Bitonio and a great center, Jason Schroeder.
Just stop. Just stop.
Robinson, he's okay.
Oh, dude, you have
Eric Kush, might be great. PFF might have graded as one of the worst guards in the entire NFL. But hey, we're chilling. Actually, I don't think he's playing anymore. Pretty sure we got Teller in there now, who's also not great. Moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, here's a fun one. Coach of the Year.
All right.
I had to give this to. This one was a really hard one for me. And I'm still, after last night's loss, I'm actually really not sure I'm feeling it. But I'm going to stick with it. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, because I think he really is fantastic. I think he does a lot with a little as well, especially in a game without George Kittle. You're easily, far and away, best receiving threat. And then pretty much without Emmanuel Sanders, who's out in the first quarter. He did what he could with the receivers they had, and I think he's a fantastic play caller. His defense is great, although I would put a lot of that on the coordinator and the players that they have. But I just think, looking at this team, I don't think it should be an 8-1 team. I would probably put them in as maybe a 5-4, 4-5 team. But I think his phenomenal play calling really puts him over the edge. The players love him. Like I said, he schemed. George Kittle's great by all means, but he schemes George Kittle open all the time. Every other play, that man, it feels like he's open. And I put a lot of that into the scheme. I think he does a great job. There are so many good options for this. Frank Reich is one, although he was probably the one I would have chosen a couple weeks ago, but it's kind of fallen apart now with Brian Hoyer being.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of good coaches for this, but I went with Kyle Shanahan.
Right. So I went with John Harbaugh.
That's a good pick.
And I say this simply because he has completely redesigned this offense specifically for Lamar Jackson in just an offseason. That's insane. Especially, because last year they stopped with Joe Callahan and eventually let Lamar Jackson go. And
Joe Callahan? Hold on. Pause.
Did I say Joe Callahan?
Joe Callahan, the GOAT! He's getting to mention on the pod!
Oh, no.
Future XFL MVP.
I'm sorry. I meant Joe Flacco. I meant Joe Flacco. Oh, Joe Callahan is a legend, though, and I do love him.
He's up there with Kyle, Brogan Roback is just legends.
Yeah. But I went with John Harbaugh just because, as I said, he has completely reimagined this Ravens offense. And for that, to be able to do that in just an offseason is crazy. Because typically, if you go from somebody like Joe Flacco, who doesn't get out of the pocket a lot, he typically stays inside the pocket.
Chills in that pocket. So
yeah, exactly. To going to be able to get receivers that not only are really good at readjusting their routes just for Lamar Jackson, but just to design plays specifically to utilize Lamar Jackson's legs, I think that is really great. And I think this Ravens offense is absolutely dirty. And I have to give that to John Harbaugh because I think while Lamar Jackson is a fantastic quarterback, the fact that he was able to just completely redo this entire offense.
Yeah, and you have to imagine he's part of the reason Lamar Jackson's taken such a big step into his sophomore year.
Yeah. It helps too. He did have, say what you want about Flacco, but he was sitting behind Flacco for at least a year. So, whatever. But well, it doesn't matter. Joe Flacco was still on the team. He still got advice from.
Yeah. He was actually pretty helpful, if I remember.
But
and RG3 is a great mentor as well. I love RG3, man.
So that's why I have to give it to John Harbaugh. Well, like you said, there's a lot of great coaches out there, like Frank Reich, who
Bill Belichick is another.
Yeah, Bill Belichick, Bill Belichick's always there.
He's always in the contention.
Yeah. Pete Carroll, I guess, could be there
Pete
too.
Pete Carroll, I think, definitely should be. And another one, actually, I think Ron Rivera should be. With Kyle Allen, he's put together a respect.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yep.
Oh, and even my mind's going blank. I should totally know this. And I shouldn't even have to think. The Saints head coach. What the hell is his name?
Sean.
Yeah, Sean Payton. Sean Payton, even though they just came off a terrible loss, he's been great with Teddy Bridgewater too. I mean, he's up there for sure.
Right.
But another thing I wanted to add, John Harbaugh, this is kind of going off something you said, but not only did he completely overhaul the defense, or the offense, I mean, for Lamar Jackson, he did. That's something not a lot of coaches will do. Good old Hugh Jackson, I'm going to use him as a fire example. It didn't matter what quarterback was in. The game plan was pretty much the same, and it never worked anyway, but some coaches aren't as good at changing what they do for who they have at quarterback, especially. And I think John Harbaugh did a fantastic job at that. But,
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a really solid pick, and that's one I was heavily considering as well. But anyway, next one, which is one I think we might have the same person, though I'm not sure.
I think we do.
Yeah, is it Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, that's Cooper Kupp.
So yeah, for comeback player of the year, we both have Cooper Kupp, who has been, even though it just came off a receptionless game, I'm going to blame Jared Goff on that one and the good Steelers defense. But Cooper Kupp has been phenomenal. He's been great.
Yeah, I think for the next one we both have the same one as well. But yeah, just to add on to that, Cooper Kupp, ever since his what was it? Was it both an ACL and MCL?
I know ACL. I don't know about the MCL.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a really bad injury that, of course, kept him sidelined for the rest of the year.
ACL's always bad, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that he was able to come back and be able to produce in the effective manner that he has is crazy. We're gonna disregard last game. I'm gonna blame that on Goff.
And everybody has a down game, even though it's a really down game.
Yeah, and I don't even want to blame that on Kupp. I think that's completely Goff's fault. Jared Goff has not been good this year. So the fact that Goff hasn't been good this year and Cooper Kupp has been able to produce, I think speaks tremendously about the type of player that he is.
Yeah. They do, and I will say they have great chemistry too. But yeah. Cooper Kupp has he's been fantastic. Another good fantasy player. Might fly under the radar after that 0 reception game, really messing some people up this week, I'm sure. But good fantasy.
Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, sorry, Alex. That's a massive L for your boy, Alex.
Yeah.
Next up, we have another really. I mean, this one's the easiest one. Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Nick Bosa.
I mean,
Nick Bosa. And it's not even close.
Redwine of the Browns, 4th round safety. I mean, he's making plays on special teams. Now, there might be a missed tackle here and there, but he's making freaking plays.
Oh, yeah?
No, it's Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is, I mean, he's fantastic, and he could be argued as defensive player of the year, let alone rookie. He has been electric. After, I'd say, a bit of a slower start after a bit of a slow start, not even that bad, but when it comes to sack numbers, it was a bit slow, but he has turned on the gas. He is freaking amazing. So,
yeah. There's not much to say besides what you just did. Yeah. Nick Bosa has been really good for the 49ers, 2nd overall pick.
Should have been first, but
yeah, he should have been first. But the Cardinals
needed your boy Kyler.
Yeah, they said, "Hey, we don't like Josh Rosen anymore." So
yeah, I will say. He reminds me a lot in his rookie season. He's probably better. He's definitely playing better than Myles did, but he reminds me of Myles Garrett, where I watch and I just notice him at all times on the field making plays. I could always tell Myles Garrett, or I could always see Myles Garrett because he's, causing pressure, all that. Honestly, he reminds me a lot of Myles Garrett. Less strong, better with his hands, and less penalties. He's great. He actually reminds me mostly of an easy comparison as his brother, Joey Bosa, who's also playing out of his mind this year. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. He's transformed this defense. Next is Offensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie. We probably have the same pick here too. Actually, I don't know. I'll go first. I have Josh Jacobs. Do you?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs. He has been heavily favored by the Raiders. They love him.
I mean, yeah.
So,
going in, I didn't know. I did. I was not the big brain it up here, but I was always in almost all my leagues. I try to pick him up, and because he would always drop a bit in the draft, and I figured he would get a lot of carries. But I thought he'd start out a bit slower. I thought he would share carries with Jalen Richard a good bit, and maybe even Doug Martin, who I don't even think is on the team anymore. I could be wrong. Who cares? It's Doug Martin, the muscle hamster. But yeah, I thought he's been way better than I ever thought he could be. He has a 90.4 PFF grade as of right now, which is unreal. He might be the highest grade running back in the league. I could be wrong. He's probably below Christian McCaffrey, but he has been playing out of his mind. He's been insane. He runs so hard. You need to have at least 2 players on him to tackle him. He's a pretty good receiving back. He is great.
Yeah.
I mean, unreal.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, unless you have anything else to add.
No, not really. He talked a lot about that, so I'll let you have that, I guess.
Sorry. Hey, you can talk about how he's kind of funny on Twitter. He's a good follow.
I don't have him followed on Twitter, sadly.
Oh, you should get on that after the pod. He's a fire. He hid from the cameras during Hard Knocks. He didn't want to be on, so he always hid like the bathroom or whatever.
That's funny.
Hello, Josh Jacobs. So, Defensive Player of the Year, we probably have different ones for this, I have to imagine.
Yeah.
I had Nick Bosa. No, I'm sorry, dude. Nick's pissed. I had Steve Harvey'd him. I have Joey Bosa.
That's crazy. I had Nick Bosa. So
Okay. I have Joey Bosa as my defensive player of the year. His sack number might be a little lower. I'm fairly certain he has 8.5 as of right now, but that's still really good for the midpoint. He's on pace for, 17 sacks.
yeah.
But nonetheless, he has an 89.5 PFF rating. If you watch Chargers games, which not many people do because they have like 5 fans, but if your team is playing the Chargers, you'll see this. He is so disruptive. He is so good with his hands, so fast, so strong. He is amazing getting to the quarterback. He can do it all on the edge. He is maybe the most disruptive player in the NFL right now. He is fantastic, and I love watching him. He's probably my second favorite defensive lineman to watch in the NFL right now, behind only Myles Garrett, and that's only because he's probably my favorite player in the league right now, and I'm biased. But he is so much fun to watch. He's awesome.
Yeah, I guess we have the Bosa brothers. I went with Nick Bosa because he has had an absolutely phenomenal rookie season as well as just defensive season as well. Typically unless you have an absolutely beast defensive player, you don't really see this too often out of rookie defensive players. Nick Bosa has seven sacks, one forced fumble, and a fumble return, and an interception, as well as a tremendous pressure rating.
Yeah, I think I don't know when the last time this is almost unprecedented for a rookie of any round to come in and like get serious defensive player of the year consideration. I mean, the season's not over. It could legitimately happen. He's that good. We already talked about him a lot because of a defensive rookie of the year, but I mean, he's the best defensive player on a defense with phenomenal defensive play, except for maybe Richard Sherman. He's playing out of his mind, but I'd say he's probably better than Richard Sherman right now. But yeah, on a defense with that many good defensive players, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead's playing great, D Ford, Richard Sherman, he is still the best player on that defense, and it's crazy. He's so good.
Yeah. So I think we should do offensive player. You didn't write that down, but I still feel like we should do offensive player of the year.
Okay. In that case, I mean, I didn't do that one because I won't lie, I'm not a big fan of that award in real life because I mean MVP always goes to an offensive player anyway. So
yeah.
But okay.
I mean, if you don't want to do that, it's fine. We can just.
No, I will. I'll say.
I don't have to. It's fine.
No, because I thought about it, and you know what? I have one anyway. Because it's a guy who I want to give MVP to, but I just can't because of consistency issues. I can't talk. But anyway, he is someone who, if he was a little more consistent, he would be my MVP, and I'm going to give it to him. It is Lamar Jackson because he is such a threat on the offense. We've already talked about him a lot, so I won't get too much into it. But as like what I said before, he is so hard to deal with. Mm-hmm. He is almost impossible to stop. He's great. So who do you have?
So we should probably just move on to MVP because my offensive player of the year is going to be MVP as well.
Okay, with MVP then I'll just put mine out right now. I have Russell Wilson because while I think Lamar Jackson might be just a little more dangerous than him, Russell Wilson is far more consistent. I mean, and he's been doing it for all these years now. I think this is in his 8th season now, and he's, for me, been a top 5 quarterback for at least the last 3 or 4. He is unreal. He can run. He doesn't need to. His pocket movement is unreal. I mean, he navigates the pocket as good as anybody. He's up there with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady when it comes to pocket movement. He can roll out of the pocket and throw on the run. He is fantastic. He's a great leader as well. He is just great all around. He is one of my favorite players in the league, and he's fantastic. And I think he really deserves the MVP this year. I think he's only thrown 2 interceptions now in the season. He's just great.
Yeah. So it was. Oh my God! This is the same thing as breakout play of the year for me, because it was between Russell Wilson or Christian McCaffrey for me. Because I think those are the 2 front runners right now for MVP. At least I got to imagine that they are. I know Russell Wilson for sure. Maybe Christian McCaffrey not as much. But if Christian McCaffrey keeps playing the way that he does, I think he is a shoo-in for MVP. And if Russell Wilson starts to slow down as the year progresses, I can see it most definitely going to Christian McCaffrey.
So you're picking Christian McCaffrey here.
Yes, sir. I have to
Thank
go with
God.
Christian
Because
McCaffrey.
if we didn't pick Christian McCaffrey for any of these, it would be a freaking crime.
Yeah.
He didn't win any of these because he's been stellar.
Yeah. So and that's my only thing. That this pick is purely based off of the assumption that I think Russell Wilson is going to slow down towards the end of the year. I think he'll finish with a few more picks, a bunch more touchdowns, I think. But I think if Christian McCaffrey keeps playing the way that he is right now and doesn't slow down, I think he is a shoo-in for MVP, 100%.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think Lamar is forming himself a good case. I almost picked him, but so
people are talking. I don't think this is going to happen, not by a long shot, actually. But Aaron Jones has entered himself at least a little bit for right now into talks of MVP. I don't think it'll happen, mind you.
It's probably not a good year for him to do that.
The only reason that he has entered himself into the MVP talks is just because he is productive as hell.
The massive amount of touchdowns.
Yeah, he just has so many touchdowns. But in terms of rushing yards, he isn't on the level of, like, say, Christian McCaffrey. So
yeah, or even like the Dalvin Cooks.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron Jones just doesn't get enough rushing yards a game to be able to do that. But he has a lot of touchdowns. So, maybe if he can keep this level of consistency in the end zone going, as well as start having a bunch more like 90-plus yard rushing games, I think very much so he can enter himself legitimately into the MVP discussion. But as of right now, I don't think so.
Yeah. I almost gave this one to Kaiser because he's going through a lot right now when it comes to – he's not even being activated for the games. He's under Mike Glennon and the Raiders. I'm not really sure what they're doing over there. But anyway, he hasn't been activated. But you know what he does? He keeps his head up. On Instagram, he's posting fire pictures of him in L.A. Oh, maybe not L.A., but in Cali, nonetheless. Doesn't matter. I mean, he's just been phenomenal on Instagram. I love Kaiser. He might be the MVP of the league with how he's handling himself. At least a breakout player. This is a breakout year for him. But on that note, I think that's everything.
Yeah, that is, looking through the script here, that is just about everything that we are going to be going through. I want to thank you guys all so much for listening to the very first 4th and 9 Draw podcast. Again, it would be very much appreciated if you guys could subscribe to us, like this video, share it with your friends, maybe even give us a nice little comment in the bottom. Again, in the description, you will be able to find all of our social media, so you can find us and follow us on there if you so choose. And the few of you that are watching, if you want to ever ask us questions in the comments, tweet at us, whatever. We'll try and answer your questions on the podcast. If there's anybody out there listening, not that there is going to be at
no
first.
one's probably going to get this far. This is probably never going to get heard. But
yeah,
if it does, that'd be heat. Thank you.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Anyone who actually gets this far in and didn't skip the whole episode, greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we thank you guys for listening to the 4th and 9 Draw podcast, and we will see you next week.
Oh yeah.